In this ninja world, I'm the one in charge now. Uzumaki Naraku. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 101, Assassination of the Fifth Hokage. The Back Mountain of Konoha. Aha. Not long after Naraku defeated Obito, two figures appeared here. Even though they were wearing masks, Naraku still recognized their identities. Itachi, Tenzo, you are here. Naraku said calmly. He was not surprised by the arrival of these two people. Kushina's previous outburst caused such a big commotion, and someone in the village must have noticed it. It would be strange if no one came. Captain, this is... With the help of the dim moonlight, Yamato saw the devastated scene around him, the cracked earth, and countless broken trees. He couldn't imagine what kind of battles had gone on here. Captain is really strong. Yamato cast an envious look at Naraku. But this time he may have made a mistake. The surrounding environment was basically destroyed when Kushina transformed into a tailed beast, and it had little to do with Naraku. At this moment, Naraku seemed to sense something, and his expression changed drastically. 10 minutes ago, it was the homeland of the Thousand Hands clan. Narashikaku was sitting in the room discussing something with Tsunade, who was sitting in the main seat. In fact, after feeling the violent energy in the back mountain of Konoha, he came here on behalf of the three inoccupant families to report the situation to Tsunade and see if there were any new instructions. In Konoha, Nara, Yamanaka, and Akimichi, these three families are absolutely loyal to the Hokage line, but in the past they were loyal to the third generation, but now they have become the fifth generation. There is indeed something wrong with the envoy sent by Union village. The envoy named Inoshita appeared in the Hyuga clan's territory in the middle of the night and wanted to attack Hinata, the daughter of Rizu. However, stopped by Naraku. Tsunade said solemnly to Shikaku. In fact, when Naraku and his gang just started their operation, he asked someone to report all this to Tsunade. She originally planned to tell him this in Zeolugio tomorrow, but now that he is here, she tells him directly. It's because of the Hyuga clan's Byakugan. Shikaku murmured. As for the Kumogakure mission coming to Konoha, Shikaku had long guessed that they had another purpose, but he didn't expect that they were actually plotting to make a blind eye. Hokage. Just when Shikaku was about to say something, two figures suddenly appeared in the room. They were wearing Anbu costumes and masks, and they were Tsunade's guards. To inexplicably break in without Tsunade's permission, something important must have happened. Hokage-sama, someone is attacking here. Please move to another place for the time being, the Anbu personnel said in a deep voice. Attack. After hearing this, Shikaku stood up immediately and walked directly to the door without any hesitation. Take Hokage-sama and leave first. Leave this place to me. At this time, Tsunade's expression kept changing, and then she followed Shikaku out of the room. As for letting her go first, it's a joke. The Hokage of Konoha has never said that. Don't say that. This is the clan of the Senju clan. Even if any part of the village is attacked, she will not flinch. At this time, the clan is outside the country. Naraku's two shadow clones looked ahead, as if facing a powerful enemy, where there was although she didn't know who this person was, the shadow clone felt a strong aura on him, an aura that was somewhat similar to that of her sister Kushina. The tailed beast is a Jinchuriki. The shadow figure wearing a cloak clone murmured. He was the one who just informed the two guards and asked them to take Tsunade out of here first. As the fifth Hokage, Tsunade must not allow any accidents. Thunder escape. Thunder arrow. The shadow clone raised his hand and waved, and in an instant, a dozen thunder arrows formed by blowups rushed forward at great speed. Call out. Call out. Several sounds broke through the air. The shadow clone had no intention of saying hello. He directly launched an attack. At this time, he came to the Senju clan in this costume. It was obvious that this person's target was definitely Tsunade. Facing the flashing thunder arrows, the man in black robe did not panic at all. He was like a nimble wildcat, dodging all the thunder arrow attacks. The shadow clone didn't hesitate at all when he saw this. After forming a seal with one hand, he shouted, "Vajra chain! Call out, call out!" In an instant, 5 golden chains stretched out from his back, and then the 5 chains rushed forward at the same time, like 5 flexible golden snakes. Cat's claw. After a murmur, the black robe kicked his feet to the ground and exerted force, rushing straight forward. Just when the chain was about to touch her, 2 slender arms stretched out from the black robe, and the next moment 10 slender claws appeared on her hands. Clang, clang. The sharp claws waved, as hard as real steel, colliding with the gold. Click, click. A shocking scene appeared. Naraku's diamond chain was cut by sharp claws, although it was restored by him with chakra the next moment. But this is also a bit shocking. You must know that even the diamond chains used by the shadow clone are stronger than ordinary kunai. The shadow clone didn't expect the claws to be so sharp, with sharp claws, and a body as flexible as a cat. Yingfen vaguely guessed something in his mind and body at this moment. We can't waste time, we must speed up. This is Konoha after all. If we wait for them to react, they will be in trouble. If they want to escape, the man in black robe thought secretly in his heart. The next moment, a violent energy burst out from her body, and the golden chains that were approaching her at high speed were also shaken open by this powerful energy point. Then a blue tail sprang out from the back of the black-robed man, and the tail was covered with black swirling patterns. Two-tailed Jinchuriki, Yukato. The shadow clone murmured, and then he disbanded on the spot without any hesitation, and then another shadow clone stepped forward to block the entrance to the clan. There was a look of shock in his eyes that was difficult to hide. He never expected that the second tail would appear in Konoha and prepare to attack Tsunade. 2 tails. At this moment, another exclamation sounded from the back of the shadow clone. It was Shikaku and Tsunade who came with him. Damn Kumogakuya, are you trying to provoke the 4th ninja war? Seeing the second tail, Tsunade was completely irritated, and the anger in her eyes burst out uncontrollably. Kumogakuya acted like this. It was obvious that he did not take her, the 5th Hokage, seriously. Yukato here did not flinch because of Tsunade's anger. On the contrary, she was very excited at this moment, especially when Tsunade appeared. Her goal is to assassinate the 5th Hokage, Senju Tsunade. Chapter 102. The fear of hemophobia has returned. What exactly is going on? Naraku, who was speeding towards the Senju clan's land, thought to himself. First, Obito appeared inexplicably in Konoha and lured Kushina away, and now Kumogakuya actually wanted to assassinate Tsunade, and for this purpose he sent the two-tailed Jinchuriki Yukato. Although Naraku didn't know much about Yukato, he also knew that she was someone who could completely control the power of tailed beasts, a true shadow level powerhouse. Naraku felt that many things were beyond his expectation now. Could it be that, because of my relationship, the direction of the plot has been completely changed? He thought in his heart. Naraku was a little helpless about this. He was already very low-key. He didn't expect that such a thing would happen, but he didn't regret it. At least Kushina survived, and Naruto's childhood was not all dark. But now, let's deal with the trouble of the second tail first. Naraku shook his head. Chakra burst out from his body, and his speed became a little faster again. If it hadn't been for the rush to find Kushina and the fact that he had consumed too much pupil power when fighting Obito, Naraku would have just used Shunku to rush on his way now. But this is also related to the fact that he has not received news about the second shadow clone. Otherwise he will rush over as soon as possible, even if he consumes too much pupil power. Forehead. Naraku was slightly stunned. Just now he received a message from the second shadow clone. It seems that the situation is not very optimistic. Naraku murmured. The next moment, a scarlet hexagram pattern appeared in his eyes. His pupil power and chakra exploded again, and a clear stream of blood tears slowly dripped from his left eye. Shun. Kang. Outside the territory of the Thousand Hands clan, roar. There was a roar like a beast, and the surrounding air instantly fluctuated like a tide. The surface of the body is covered with blue cat demon pattern like chakra. A head of yellow hair is tilted upward, and even his pupils have turned white. At this time, Yukito has completely lost his normal human appearance and has turned on the half-tail. The state of animalization. In this state, Yukito's physical strength will be greatly enhanced, and at the same time, the tailed beast's chakra will heal wounds very quickly, so there is almost no need to worry about being injured in battle. Naraku's shadow clone was defeated by one of its claws just now. The tailed beast turned. Yukato kicked the ground with his feet and pounds towards Tsunade like a tiger. Hokage-sama, be careful. 2 guards dressed as and boosted in front of Tsunade, but what they didn't notice was the angry look on Tsunade's face at this time. Her fists clenched, and just when she was about to explode, a soft drink sounded. Shadow mimicry. After Lu Jiayu quickly formed a seal with his hands, he made a special mark with his hands. It was late at night, and the moon was sparse. Under the hazy moonlight, a black shadow could be seen moving at high speed, and its target was Yukato, who was flying in the air. Well, I got you, Shikaku thought in his mind, and then a large amount of chakra poured out of him. At this time, Yumu-ren, who was flying in the air, fell to the ground with a bang. Shikaku used the shadow imitation technique to temporarily control Yukato, but it could be seen from the large amount of sweat beads on his forehead that he could not hold on for too long. Go to hell. With a loud roar, Tsunade's figure instantly appeared in front of the temporarily restrained Yukato. There were no ninjutsu with complicated moves, only one punch, a straight punch directed towards the half-tailed beast Yukato. Puff. At this moment, Shikaku, who was trying to restrain Yukato, suddenly spit out a mouthful of blood, and then his body began to shake. With his strength, it was still a bit reluctant to control Yumu-ren, who had turned into a half-tailed beast. With Shikaku injured, Yukato also regained her freedom, but before she could make any move, Tsunade's heavy punch had already hit her. Boom. There was a loud noise, air waves rolled, and the air in front of Tsunade fluctuated like a tidal wave. Yumu-ren's body flew backwards directly. Hokage. Only then did the 2 guards react. They were completely shocked by Tsunade's strength. Take Shikaku away quickly, and leave this place to me first, Tsunade shouted in a deep voice. The 2 guards hesitated. For them, the most important task was to protect Tsunade's safety. Hurry up, do you want to disobey the Hokage's order? Seeing the 2 people's delay in moving, Tsunade urged again. Yes. Seeing Tsunade giving the order in the name of Hokage, they did not dare to disobey. They helped Shikaku, who was about to faint on the ground, and then they left here in a flash. In fact, they also knew that staying with their Junin strength would not be of much help. Such a battle was not something they could participate in. After seeing them leave, Tsunade breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, she was the only one in the huge clan. Naruto and Shiro had already let Shizune lead them away from the secret passage. Swish. At this moment, a blue and black shadow flashed in front of her. It was Yukato. Blue and black chakra was surging crazily on her body. At this time, her body was intact, just like Tsunade's blow. It was like it didn't cause her any harm at all. Strong recovery ability is a must-have skill for every Jinchuriki. The 5th Hokage, faced with such a situation, actually let his men go first. I have to say that you are a good leader, but it is a pity that you will die here today. Yukato murmured. She has perfectly mastered the power of the Two-Tails and can maintain consciousness in any state, so she can communicate with people normally, even if she is completely transformed into a tailed beast, not to mention that she is only in a half-tailed beast form now. Humph. In response, Tsunade just snorted and ignored the other party. At the same time, she stared straight ahead, as if she didn't dare to turn her head. Boom. At this moment, Yukato suddenly launched an attack on Tsunade, his sharp claws slashing forward, and a dazzling cold light flickered in the night sky. Tsunade, who had been aware of this for a long time, dodged the claw attack, and clenched her hands into fists. Just when she was about to punch again, Yukito's face no longer looked like a human, but he showed a weird smile. Next moment. Puff. The wooden man swung forward from left to right, and then a piece of scarlet blood appeared on the field. The blood scattered in the air, and then a strong smell of blood came. Tsunade's punch stopped instantly. Her body began to tremble violently, and a look of panic began to appear on her face. Haha, the rumors are indeed true. At this moment, Yukito sneered, and then kicked out, landing directly on Tsunade. The huge force caused it to fly backwards. Tsunade's hemophobia returned. Chapter 103. Fortunately, I caught up. The 5th Hokage, go to hell. Yukito came to Tsunade, who was collapsed on the ground. A cold murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Then she raised her right arm slightly, stretched out her sharp cat claws, and stabbed directly towards Tsunade's neck point. Call out. Call out. At this moment, several piercing sounds sounded behind her, and Yumu-ren instantly felt a chill coming over her. In fact, now she was protected by the chakra of the two-tails, and she would recover easily, even if she was injured. However, out of caution, she turned around and avoided the Kune's attack. But the next moment, a figure holding a sword appeared next to Tsunade. Without any hesitation, red flames appeared on the sword and swung it fiercely at Yukito. Uchiha style sword technique, red fire blade. The person who came was none other than Uchiha Shisu. He and the Itachi soldier split up and went to the back mountain of Konoha alone. He was afraid of any accidents and came to protect Tsunade Point unexpectedly. It came at the right time. Point facing this flaming sword. Yumu-ren was not afraid at all and raised his sharp claws to strike straight at it. Point stab it. The flame sword and the sharp claw collided quickly and a burst of dazzling sparks appeared. Just when Yukito was about to burst out chakra and increase the intensity of her attack, a pair of scarlet eyes appeared in her sight. Magic, the art of shackles. A soft drink came into her ears, and the next moment Yumu felt as if her limbs had been penetrated by a sharp weapon, and a sharp pain came from her. This is just an illusion. Break it for me. Yukito roared in her heart. Blue and black chakra burst out violently, and a violent aura emanated from her body as the air shook. At the same time, her body shape was slowly changing. The rich tail beast chakra completely enveloped her body, and then she opened her mouth and spit out a ball of fire. Point the crimson flame like magma instantly turned into a huge fireball with a diameter of more than 2 meters, and the fireball rushed straight forward. At this time, Shisu had just helped Tsunade up from the ground, and instantly he felt a wave of heat coming towards him. Face point without any time to hesitate. He was about to use the teleportation technique to escape, but then a hand pressed on his shoulder to stop him. Haha, does Cloud Hidden Village really think that Konoha, is easy to bully, so they directly sent Jinkriki to assassinate me? But now that you're here, don't leave, came Tsunade's unusually firm tone. The next moment she raised her fists. A large amount of chakra gathered in her fists, and then she swung forward fiercely. Boom. The violent wind of the fist shook the air. This punch seemed to be more powerful than before. The huge fireball was directly blown into 2 halves by the wind of the fist. At this moment, Tsunade seemed to have overcome his hemophobia, but Shisu still noticed Tsunade's closed eyes. Tsunade was still unable to overcome the hemophobia in a short period of time, but at this time she had cut off her sense of taste, and if she closed her eyes, she could suppress the hemophobia for a short time. Roar. At this moment, a roar that shook the entire sky came from the field. Point the air rippled like a tide. Point Shisu looked up and saw a demon cat whose body was burning with blue flames looking down at them. The demon cat's eyes are green and yellow. It is the second-tailed Nikomata. The 5th Hokage. You must die here today. The voice of Yukito, who had completely transformed into a tailed beast, became fierce. As she spoke, she opened her huge fans and rushed towards Tsunade. The huge impact instantly caused a cloud of smoke. There were beads of sweat falling from Tsunade's forehead. Even though she couldn't see Oga's huge body, when she closed her eyes, she could still feel the powerful energy fluctuations. For some reason, a figure appeared in her mind at this time, that guy with white hair, and looking extremely lustful. Swish. At this moment, Shisu dodged and stood in front of Tsunade. The 3 black Magatama in his scarlet eyes began to rotate rapidly, and a 4-cornered windmill pattern appeared in his right eye. Then a powerful energy radiated from his body, and tears of blood slowly flowed from his right eye. Susanoo. Zisu shouted low, and the next moment, a rich green light was released from his body. After the light dissipated, a giant skeleton with green light appeared on the field point. Although the skeleton giant only has the upper body, it still exudes a powerful aura. Under Shisu's control, 2 huge bone fists were raised and blasted towards the 2 tails that were rushing forward at high speed. Boom, boom. 2 violent sounds came in succession, and even the air seemed to be shattered. Facing the Green Susan's offensive, Yukito was not afraid at all. He pounced directly on Susan. 2 sharp claws flashed with a dazzling cold light. The next moment, the claws fell directly on Susan. Boom, boom, boom. A series of sonic booms sounded, and every time Yukito waved his claws, a crack appeared on the green Susanoo point. Although Susanoo is said to have the strongest defense, that is just an adjective. Susanoo's defense is strong, but it also depends on who the opponent is. If it were a normal ninjutsu, Susanoo would be able to prevent it, but it was obvious that facing Yukito, who had completely transformed into a tailed beast, Shisu, who had barely reached the second stage of Susanoo, was not enough of, well, Shisu, who was shrouded by Susanoo, covered his right eye and let out a cry of pain, and red blood could be seen flowing from his fingers. Sure. Enough. One eye is still too reluctant. He murmured in his heart with Susanoo open in one eye, looking at the entire ninja world, except for the blind Madara. Only Shisu can do it. Although Shisu's body had reached its limit, he was still trying to hold on. The green Susan looked very embarrassed, but he was held tightly by the wooden man. Roar. Yumu Ren, who was feeling a little anxious, let out a roar, and then she jumped, and her huge cat body quickly retreated. At this time, she had given up on killing Tsunade, because she was ready to destroy everything in front of her. Tailed beast Jade. He murmured in his heart, and then he opened his mouth slightly, and a strong and violent energy gathered in front of his head. The energy visible to the naked eye slowly converged into a black-purple energy ball. Not good. Shisu, who noticed this scene, secretly thought, holding back the severe pain from his right eye. He approached Yukito very quickly, and the same action was taken by the green Susanoo point. However, due to the serious consumption of pupil power, Shisu's speed dropped a lot. If he had waited until he arrived, Yukito would have already condensed the tailed beast Jade. We going to use that move? A trace of hesitation flashed in Zishu's eyes. Boom. Just then, a loud noise came. Fortunately, I caught up. Chapter 104 Yumuan's Premonition. The Land of the Thousand Hands Clan. This is it. Zissou looked at the golden giant holding a sword in both hands, then looked up at the green patch of green on his head, and couldn't help but shake his head and smile bitterly. Who is the Uchiha clan member? It's Naraku coming here. Tsunade, who had her eyes closed at this time, also noticed Naraku's breath. Then she used her sleeves to clean the bloodstains on her face, and then tentatively opened her eyes. Golden light, dazzling golden light everywhere that strikes the eye. Cool. Tsunade breathed a sigh of relief, and the diamond pattern shining on her forehead gradually dimmed. She still believes in Naraku's strength. The Susanoo that comes with the main Jekai Sharingan is really good for dealing with tailed beasts. Boom. At this moment, a loud noise came, and the golden Susan shook violently twice, and then Naraku's figure appeared on Susan's shoulder. Scarlet eyes glanced at Tsunade and the two, and after slightly nodding, Naraku lowered his head, and looked at Yukito, the second tail, who was pressed by Susanoo. When he used Shunkang to come here just now, he found that the opponent was condensing the tailed beast Jade, so he summoned Susanoo without any hesitation, and Shunkang teleported directly to the back of the Titels. Although it was a bit violent, the effect was very obvious, directly destroying the cohesion of the two-tailed beast Jade. At this time, the golden Susanoo began to shake violently, and the two tails suppressed by it were struggling hard. Be honest with me. Naraku frowned slightly, then let out a low drink. Vajra chain. In an instant, 7 thick golden chains stretched out from his back, tearing through the air and rushing towards Susanoo. At this time, the golden chains looked as thick as an adult man's arms, and they were like golden pythons surging at extremely fast speeds. Wow. The chain was extremely fast and completely wrapped the two tails in the blink of an eye. Roar. The bound two tails let out a roar, and chakra-like blue flames surged out of the body crazily, and the already huge body of the tailed beast expanded again. Click. 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 Under Urwu's crazy outburst, several chains began to break. You can't even restrain the second tail. Naraku murmured that at this moment he was a little disappointed with the power of the diamond chain, but when he thought about the scene, where Kushina could even restrain the 9 tails, he felt that he had not mastered his kung fu yet. Kai. Just as Uwe continued to break free from the chains, a huge golden sword light appeared, and then fell hard on Uwe. Boom. A huge impact came, and the sword light collided with the violent energy of Uwe. In the end, the second tail relied on its strength, violence, and massive chakra to withstand the sword's offensive. I actually withstood it, but I don't know if you can stand the next attack. A sharp look flashed in Naraku's eyes, and then the golden Susanoo started to move. Holding two golden swords, he began to swing his hands rapidly at the same time. Kai, kai, kai. Sounds of breaking through the air sounded, and then golden sword lights appeared on the field. The sword light cut through the air, exuding endless power, and then they all rushed towards the second tail at extremely high speed. After noticing this scene, Uwe began to explode crazily again. A large amount of blue energy erupted on the huge body, and the body began to twist crazily like a real blue flame. But how could Naraku let him break free like this? 7 golden chains suddenly erupted, and a dazzling golden light flashed out, directly suppressing the rioting Uwe for a moment. Next moment, boom, 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 more than a dozen sword rays fell on Uwe one by one, and the dazzling golden light directly covered the violent blue energy on her body. The huge impact directly set off a burst of smoke. Shizu, not far away, was deeply shocked by this scene. To suppress the tailed beast with one person's strength, what kind of strength and temperament is required? The golden light that filled the sky made him see a familiar figure. 4th generation, sir. Maybe the person who inherits your will has appeared. With Naraku, Uchiha and the village will definitely develop for a long time, he thought in his mind. Tsunade here saw such a brave Naraku. Such a scene could not help but remind her of her grandfather, Senju Hashirama, the man who created Konoha and the first Hokage of Konoha, known as a ninja, the existence of God. How is this possible? Tsunade shook her head slightly. Although Naraku's strength is very strong, there is still a long way to go compared to her grandfather, but Tsunade has a feeling that Naraku's future achievements may be even higher than her grandfather's. Maybe. A bold idea grew in Tsunade's mind, but the next moment she shook her head slightly. It's too early now. However, Tsunade may not be aware that, because of her thoughts, the future of the ninja world has undergone drastic changes, and everything has changed. On the field, after the continuous bombardment of the golden sword light, Uwe's aura became weaker and weaker, as if it would disappear in the next moment. However, Naraku frowned slightly at this time. He felt something was wrong. The second tail gave him the feeling not of weakness, but of boom. At this moment, a violent and powerful energy shot into the sky. Not good. Naraku secretly thought in his heart. He could feel that his diamond chain was breaking at an extremely fast speed. Roar. A beast-like roar sounded, and the roar directly shattered the air. A strong wave of energy came, and the surrounding air fluctuated like a tide. At this time, Uwe exuded an unparalleled momentum, several times stronger than before. Then the violent energy slowly subsided, and then the huge Uwe appeared in the eyes of several people again. At this time, its size seemed to be more than twice as big as before, and its height seemed to be close to 20 meters. This is the perfect Jinchuriki. It can easily unleash all the power of the tailed beast. Naraku narrowed his eyes slightly, and his expression gradually became serious. Even he couldn't easily suppress Uwe at this moment. Haha, Konoha is really full of talents. If you grow up, Wikimogakure will be destroyed sooner or later. The voice of the wooden man roared like a wild beast. The yellow and white beast eyes kept wandering around Naraku and Shizu. At this time, Yukito changed his mind. Compared to the 5th generation Hokage Tsunade who has entered middle age, the young Shizu and Naraku are obviously more threatening, especially for Naraku. Yukito had a hunch in her heart that, if she couldn't kill Naraku today, Kumogakure would be destroyed by his hands one day. Chapter 105. Remove your eyes and do it. It seems that these eyes are going to be ruined today. Naraku murmured as he looked at Uwe, who was nearly 20 meters tall in front of him. Naraku knows very well that his current strength is only at the beginning of the shadow level, and may not even reach the standard of the shadow level in some aspects, and now, the reason why he can fight against cage level experts like Obito and Yukito is just because of the abilities of the main Jekai Sharingan. But unfortunately, at present, this ability has many side effects. By now, Naraku felt a sharp pain in his eyes, and he also felt that his vision was significantly reduced. But even so, Naraku can no longer care so much at this time. Two lines of blood and tears fell from his eyes. The next moment, a dazzling golden light rose into the sky, and a powerful impact came. In his second form, Susanoo evolved again. The original golden flesh was covered with a golden armor, and his size also grew a lot. Although he has not yet reached the height of the Titels, which is nearly 20 meters, he still has a golden armor. Not much different. The Uchiha clan has such powerful power. It's such an enviable clan. Yukito admired in his heart as he looked at the golden Susan in front of him. Although she was very reluctant, she had to admit that, if she didn't use the power of the second tail, everyone present would be stronger than her. However, as a two-tailed Jinkriki, the power of the two tails can be considered part of her power. I must kill you two today. Looking at Naraku and Shizu, the murderous intention in Yukito's heart reached its peak at this moment. Boom. The next moment, Uwa's huge body rushed forward. Although she was huge, her speed did not slow down at all. She appeared to be very fast, and she was in front of Naraku in the blink of an eye. Go to hell. The sharp cat claws streaked through the air, tearing the air apart instantly. Kai. Naturally, Naraku would not sit still and wait for death. Under his control, the golden Susan wearing armor moved quickly, waving two golden long swords quickly. Rays of golden sword light tore through the air and struck at Uwe, who was charging at extremely fast speeds. Boom, boom, boom. Loud noises were heard, and every time the golden sword light fell on Uwe, it would set off a violent wave of energy. The sword light and the blue flame-like energy collided with each other. Although the sword light could not cause substantial damage to Uwe, it still blocked his progress. Call. Naraku breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. If even the golden Susanoo couldn't stop the Titels, it's hard to say what the situation would be like. The golden Susanoo held the sword in both hands and kept swinging it. The golden sword light in the sky kept hitting the Titels, temporarily suppressing the opponent in a short period of time. Well, at this moment, Naraku felt a sharp pain coming from his eyes. Looks like we need to speed up, Naraku murmured. The continuous consumption of pupil power made his body weaker and weaker, and the load on his eyes became heavier and heavier. Naraku knew that he had to end this battle as soon as possible, otherwise his eyes might really become useless. Black flame thunder, Naraku murmured in his mouth, and then chakra and eye power burst out again, and the tears that had dried up became moist again. At the same time, a black flame appeared on Uwa's body. Without any hesitation, Uwa's violent energy burst out again, and energy like blue flames enveloped the black flames. Yumu Ren realized that the black flame was not simple, and wanted to suppress it. Hey Yan Lei is not that easy to deal with, Naraku muttered upon seeing this. Boom. The moment he finished speaking, there was a violent fluctuation, and then Hey Yan, who was wrapped in blue energy, reappeared, and black arcs as thick as fingers in the flames. In just a moment, the size of the flames more than doubled, and it was still spreading towards Uwe at a very fast speed. Roar. Uwe roared, and then her body began to split, and the area contaminated by black flames instantly left her body. Tailed beasts have no physical body. As energy bodies, they can freely decompose and reorganize their bodies. How could I let you succeed like this? At this moment, Naraku said in a calm tone. The next moment, Vajra chain 7 thick chains appeared, and 6 gold and 1 black ore rushed towards Uwe. The thick chain was like a flexible python, extremely fast, and rushed in front of Uwe in the blink of an eye. Without any hesitation, the 6 golden locks began to rotate flexibly, and in the next moment Uwe was huge. The body was tied into a rice dumpling. Click, click. However, as the two tails exploded, the chains began to break one by one. Let's go back. Naraku released his pupil power again in his right eye, and saw that the energy stripped out by the second tail had completely turned into a black flame. Crack, crack. There was a thick black arc flashing in the flame. As Naraku's power spread, the black flame flew up quickly, and then fell on Uwa's huge body again. At the same time, under Naraku's control, the golden chains began to tighten. Although the chains broke from time to time, they would be restored by him using chakra as soon as possible. Roar. This time, Uwe raised her head to the sky and let out a roar of pain. Black flames visible to the naked eye had spread to half of her body. The burning sensation of fire and the paralysis of thunder and lightning appeared on her body at the same time. In this state, even when she was fully transformed into a tailed beast, she could hardly hold on anymore. "Let me add more fire to you," Naraku murmured. Next moment, Kai. There were sounds of piercing the air, and the golden Susanoo moved again, and the sword light shot out. The sword light tore through the air and landed heavily on the restrained Oe. Boom, boom. For a moment, there was golden sword light, black flames, and the blue energy like flames on Oe's body. These kinds of lights kept flashing on Oe. Yumu Ren, I may not be able to help you this time. At this moment, a somewhat gentle female voice appeared in Yumu Ren's mind. She is the second tail. In fact, when she is in the complete tail beast state, the control of this body is controlled by her and Yumuto together. Those roars were all made by her at this time. The black flame thunder has almost spread to her whole body. If it continues, both of them may die. Thank you, Nakamata. Yukito murmured in his heart, and immediately lost consciousness the next moment. And the huge body of Oe on the field began to shrink until it finally returned to human form. Chapter 106 is useless. Probably not. Yumu Ren, who had returned to her human form, fell to the ground, and the black flames were still burning on her body. It's not that Naraku wants to kill her directly. If you look carefully, you will find that there is a layer of light blue energy on the surface of Yukito's skin protecting her. Naraku knew that was the power of the two tails. Kumogakure still has his own tricks. The relationship between the Jinkriki and the tailed beasts is pretty good. Naraku thought to himself, as the black flames continued to burn. That layer of energy became weaker and weaker. It seems like it's really dangerous this time, Oe said secretly in his heart, and then fell silent. At the same time, the energy barrier protecting Yumu also disappeared, and Oe's energy was almost consumed. Laugh. The sound of burning flesh and blood sounded. Without the protection of the two tails energy, the black flames instantly burned the wooden man's body to black. I still have to spare your life, Oe, Naraku secretly thought in his heart, and then his pupil power spread out, and the flames attached to Yumu's body slowly flew towards Naraku, and finally none of them entered his right eye. At this time, you can see that Yumu Ren lying on the ground has many burnt spots on his body. Zeng. The next moment, a black chain wrapped around Yumu Ren. Yumu Ren, who had fainted, had no ability to resist, and allowed the chains to wrap up their whole body. After more than 10 seconds, the tight chains were slowly loosened, and at this time, black spells could be seen appearing everywhere on Yumu Ren's body. It is the sealing technique, the Black Lotus binding. At this time, Yumu Ren could not move regardless of whether she fell asleep or not. Swish. The next moment, Naraku's figure appeared in front of Yukito. Blue chakra energy emerged in his hands, and then he shouted low and pressed his hand on Yukito's stomach. Gossip seal. A burst of white mist visible to the naked eye floated up, and a swirling black spell rose on Yumu Ren's belly. Although Yumu Ren originally had sealing skills, the inferior sealing skills were simply incomparable to the Uzumaki clan's Bagua seal. The Bagua seal is an extremely powerful sealing technique. Even the strongest tailed beast Nine Tails can only try to break away from the seal when Kushina is giving birth, let alone the two tails. The key to unlocking the Bagua seal is in Naraku's hand, so even if Oe and Yumu are connected, they cannot easily break the seal, and Naraku also left his chakra on the sealed door. No communication between the two could escape his eyes. It wasn't until he finished doing this that Naraku breathed a sigh of relief. Then the scarlet eyes flashed slightly and returned to normal, and at the same time, the golden Susanoo also dissipated. At this time, Naraku felt a strong sense of fatigue coming from his eyes. He knew that this was the sequel of using the main Gekkai Sharingan in the past. It seems that the plan must be moved forward. Naraku, who was thinking in his mind, raised his head and glanced at Tsunade. Aha. At this moment, two figures appeared here. He has a somewhat fat body and is holding a long stick in his hand. He is the leader of the Akimichi clan, Akimichi Choza. As for the other person, it can be seen from his pale golden hair that he is a pig in a pig deer dish. Lord Hokage. When They came here. They appeared in front of Tsunade for the first time. With a hint of worry in their tone point, they were notified by someone sent by Shikaku, and the moment they received the notification, they set off and rushed here. I'm fine. In response, Tsunade waved her hand slightly, and then said with a serious look on her face, gather all the Jounin in the village and the heads of the major families, and ask them to gather at the Hokage building immediately. Yes. The to invite some advisors here too. Tsunade thought for a while and finally added, it's not that she is afraid of those consultants, but that she has to do something that the Hokage should do today. But before that she has to completely responded, integrate all the people in the village. Some things should be put down when they should be put down. Tsunade secretly thought in her heart. Ending Zao and the two temporarily became Tsunade's bodyguards, and the Enbu personnel who came from behind went to inform the others in the clanland. Naraku, your eyesight. Rich green light emerged in Tsunade's hands, and the next moment she placed her hands on Naraku's eyes with her medical skills. She noticed the abnormality in Naraku's eyes at the moment of contact, and a look of worry appeared on her face. Although her medical skills are very strong, she cannot help Naraku regain his sight. Should I pass that move on to him now? Tsunade secretly thought in her heart. Forget it, let's wait a little longer. After all, I'm still too young. I'm fine, Sister Tsunade. Naraku said with a smile. What's okay? At this moment, Kushina's worried voice came over. Since Sister Tsunade is helping you with treatment, just tell the truth about your symptoms. You must not hide anything. Kushina lived in the Senju clan for many years when she was young, so her relationship with Tsunade and the others is still very deep, but she usually doesn't show it. Kushina usually calls her sister when no one is around, so Naraku naturally follows suit. It seems good for master to become brother-in-law. Naraku suddenly thought in his heart. Okay, you two don't talk about each other anymore. Tsunade's slightly scolding voice came. Forget it, Naraku. We can't blame him for the situation just now. But what about you? Who asked you to use the Nine-Tails chakra? Tsunade frowned slightly and turned to look at Kushina. She also felt helpless towards this sister. Kushina didn't reply to this. She just opened her mouth and smiled bitterly, and then walked out of the room. Sister, what's going on with her body? Naraku couldn't help but asked Tsunade. However, Tsunade did not tell him. Tsunade turned around and was about to walk out of the room and said, don't worry about Kushina's affairs. You should take care of yourself first. If your main Gekkai Sharingan continues like this, it will be really useless. It's useless. It shouldn't happen. After all, I am inside the Konoha building. At this time, the sky has begun to turn white, and the sun is slowly rising from the east. Tsunade, wearing Hokage robes, strode into the building and sat directly in the middle. After a while, the heads of the major families in the village, as well as the Jounin who were still in the village, all came here. Lord Hokage, as the leader of the Uchiha clan, Fugaku naturally rushed over. At this time, he seemed to know something and stood directly on Tsunade's side. Chapter 107 Two Things About Tsunade. Inside the Hokage building, at this time, a fierce quarrel was breaking out. Fifth generation. Do you know what you are talking about? The position of elder advisor has been established since the first generation. Now you actually say that you want to cancel this position. Are you going against the will of the first generation? A woman who looked very old was verbally criticizing Tsunade. Her body was trembling slightly due to her excitement. Koharu, one of Konoha's top 3 advisors, has been an old friend of the third generation and Danzo for many years. Fifth day, the matter of the elder advisor is not your decision, and we will definitely not agree to that matter. Mitokadon, who was sitting next to Koharu who was sleeping, said in a deep voice facing the questioning of the two elders. Tsunade was sitting in the main seat with her hands on her forehead, blocking her face in addition to a few people who are out on missions, and the third generation who has not been in the village in recent years. Basically all the high level officials of Konoha are here. Just now, Tsunade announced 2 things in front of all of them, 2 things that shocked everyone. The first thing is to temporarily cancel the position of elder advisor in Konoha village, and the second thing is to attack Uzumaki. Let's not talk about the second thing. Someone has already jumped out to object to the first thing. It was Koharu, the advisor to the elders, and Mitomonon pointed was obvious that Tsunade's decision had greatly harmed the interests of the two of them, and they would naturally not agree with it. As for the other people on the field, their expressions also changed, and their thoughts began to differ. The three of Inoshikapan unconditionally supported the Hokage's decision. They stood directly behind Tsunade to express their attitude. What was surprising was that the Uchiha clan and the Hyuga clan also stood behind Tsunade. These 5 major families basically represent most of the power of Konoha village. The remaining Aburame clan, Hounds and Fangs clan, and some other small families and some jounin are still waiting and watching at this time point. After all, Tsunade has only been in office for a few years, while Koharu and Mitomonon have been in office for more than 10 years. Some of their psychology has already been deeply ingrained, and it is difficult to change in a short time. However, Tsunade didn't care about this. She remained silent at this time, as if waiting for something. Boom. Boom. When Zyana-chan went to bed and was about to say something else, there was a sudden knock on the door. Tsunade's face changed slightly when she heard this voice, and her frown relaxed slightly. Please come in. Tsunade said slightly. A squeak. The wooden door gradually opened, and then 3 figures appeared outside the door. They had short red hair like blood and a gentle smile on their faces. The one in the middle was Naraku. To his left was a thin silver-haired man wearing a black mask. It was Kakashi, who had not appeared in the village for a long time. As for the last person, the familiar green sportswear and black mushroom head is our future Emperor K. Some time ago, Kakashi and Gaia were sent on a secret mission by Tsunade, and they just returned this morning. The 3 people who came here stood directly behind Tsunade without saying a word. Only Naraku looked at Koharu and the 2 who were sleeping with a half smile. In Naraku's heart, he hates these 2 people as much as the 3rd generation. They are all things that are used to satisfy their own selfish desires in the name of doing good for the village. He had even thought about crusading against Kumogakure, but he hadn't brought it up yet. However, the current situation was better, and he didn't have to worry about convincing others. Everyone's expressions changed after seeing the 3 Narakus. Although they are all of the younger generation, no one in Konoha dares to look down on them. Needless to say, Uzumaki Naraku, the younger brother of the 4th generation, is known as a monster in Konoha. Hatake Kakashi graduated from the Ninja Academy at the age of 6. He is a famous genius boy in Konoha. He is no weaker than his father Konoha White Fang. As for the last K, the name of Konoha's Blue Beast has gradually spread in the village in recent years. It is no exaggeration to say that these 3 people are definitely the future pillars of Konoha. Almost no one present dared to ignore the words of these 3 people, especially Uzumaki Naraku. Almost all of these senior officials knew that Danzo was killed by him. 2 elders, do you want to disobey Lord Hokage's order? At this moment Naraku spoke. At the same time, his eyes kept wandering to Zyana-chan and the 2 who were sleeping together, and the threat was very obvious. Although Naraku's actions may leave a bad impression on others, he doesn't care. In this cruel world, big fists and hard fists are the only way to survive. Are you threatening me? Zyana-chan said in a cold tone when he went to bed. She was not afraid of Naraku at all. Although he killed Danzo, she believed that Danzo only brought it upon himself, and that he was too stupid. She didn't think Naraku dared to attack her directly. Threatening? Haha, how is that possible? You are just disobeying Lord Hokage's orders, but this is not feasible in Konoha, Naraku countered. There is a very overbearing order in Konoha village, that is, no one can disobey the Hokage's order, whether right or wrong, otherwise the Hokage has the right to directly expel those who disobey the order from the village. Humph, I just objected and did not disobey the order. Zyana-chan snorted coldly as he went to bed, still quibbling. But at this time, Naraku and Tsunade didn't have time to play word games with her here. They were still anxiously discussing the second thing. Boom. At this moment, Tsunade slapped the table and stood up, her fair face full of determination. The positions of the elders who have been transferred to Koharu and Mitomonon are temporarily cancelled. Their responsible positions will be temporarily replaced by the Nara clan chief. A domineering tone that could not be refused came from Tsunade's mouth. 2 elders, please complete the handover procedures as soon as possible. Gode, you, the Expressions of Koharu and Mitokadini changed when they went to bed. Just when they were about to say something, Naraku's low voice sounded in their ears. The two elders had better agree to what Lord Hokage says, otherwise I can't guarantee whether the things you did before will be known to the people in the village. For example, how did Konoha White Fang die? Naraku's words instantly changed the expressions of the two of them. Their eyes evaded imperceptibly, and they did not dare to look at Kakashi, and the words they were about to say were completely swallowed in their stomachs. How could he know this? The two looked at each other with shock on their faces. Chapter 108 Letter from the Border. You should stay in the village honestly. Inside the Hokage building, since both consultants have no objections, please stay away for now. We have other things to discuss. Tsunade said to Koharu and the two who were sleeping silently. Humph, I will report this matter to the third generation truthfully. Don't be too proud. Koharu snorted coldly and then left here with Mito Kadoyan. This Tsunade is really ignorant of the world. She dares to treat us like this just because she is the granddaughter of the first generation. Koharu, who was sleeping in the Hokage building, said with an angry look on his face. And that Uzumaki Naraku, do you really think you are lawless? Compared to her who was full of resentment, Mito Manabu seemed very calm at this time. Are we really old? Mito Kadoyan sighed in his heart. For him who has been in a high position for more than 10 years, the scene just now can be called a great shame and humiliation. But at this time, he did not feel much resentment in his heart. There was even a hint of relief. It seems that it's really time to retire, he thought in his heart, and then ignored Koharu who was still talking about something, and Mito Manabu left here directly, inside the Hokage building. After Mito Manabu and Captain Koharu were dismissed from their positions, Tsunade's power in Konoha village reached its maximum at this time point. Tsunade looked around with determined eyes. Uzumaki, Hinata, Uchiha, Nara, Akimichi, Yamazaki, except for a very few families. Basically all the famous ninja families in Konoha village are here. Maybe there are people here who are not so loyal to her and are just showing their loyalty to her, but so what? Tsunade doesn't care. His eyes stayed on the three Narakus, as well as Shizu and Itachi standing behind Fugaku. They are all geniuses among geniuses and the pillars of Konoha's future. Watching the thought in their hearts, Tsunade's heart is magnified several times again. Peace. This time I want to pursue real peace. Tsunade, who was thinking this in her heart, sat down and spoke immediately. Kumogakure sent a mission this time on the pretext of visiting, but the purpose is to win the favor of the Hyuga clan. What do you think of this? Came Tsunade's calm tone. This time, everyone turned their attention to one person, the leader of the Hyuga clan, Hinata Hizu. Point at this time, Hizu felt a pressure inexplicably. He originally came here today and wanted to ask Tsunade for an explanation. Kumogakure dared to seek the eyes of the Hyuga clan, and Kumogakure must pay a price point. But now looking at Tsunade's current attitude, he didn't dare to speak. He was afraid that, if he lost his words for a moment, it would directly lead to the outbreak of war between the two countries. After much hesitation, Hizu finally spoke. Kumogakure envoy Nakato did sneak into my Hyuga clan's territory yesterday with the intention of murdering my little girl. Fortunately, Captain Naraku discovered it in time and saved my little girl. Nizu's words directly confirmed Kumogakure's plot to murder Byakugan. Kumogakure dared to attack Miss Hinata. They must pay the price. At this moment a person dressed as an Anbu spoke. It was Hinata Kori. At this moment, he took off his mask and murmured angrily. Hinata didn't feel anything was wrong when he heard this. Hyuga was just a member of the branch family, and he was absolutely loyal to the clan in his heart. What's more, Hinata was his eldest daughter, and she would inherit it if there were no major changes in the future. The entire Hyuga clan. It is normal for Hinata Fire to react like this. Not only that, Kumogakure's Tatel Jinkriki, Yukato, secretly sneaked into the village last night and wanted to assassinate Lord Hokage. Now the person has been captured alive. Shikaku spoke slowly. These words completely shocked everyone. If they were just seeking to win the eyes of the Hyuga clan, then Kumogakure could at most give an explanation and pay some material or financial price to compensate the Hyuga clan point. But they want to assassinate Tsunade. You must know that Tsunade represents the entire Konoha at this time, and Kumogakure is undoubtedly provoking the entire Konoha village point at this moment. A wave of anger appeared on everyone's faces. You 9 acted like this and put their entire village in contempt. I decided to ask. Just when Tsunade was about to say something, a ninja eagle flew over outside the window. Tsunade frowned slightly when she saw this, and a bad feeling arose in her heart. Ninja eagles are a common method used by ninjas to convey messages. Basically, every ninja village will raise a certain number of ninja eagles, then at her signal, Shikaku stepped forward and took off the note tied to the ninja eagle point. Shikaku handed it to Tsunade without opening the note point. After Tsunade took it, her expression changed instantly when she saw the words above, and then she said with a serious face, "There is news from Senior Shikamachi over the border that the 4th generation Reikage of Kumogakure village has appeared in Tangziguo, and a large number of ninjas in Kumogakure village have begun to gather, and they seem to be preparing to launch an attack on Konoha." Tsunade's words completely shocked everyone. After a brief silence, Tsunade spoke again. "The village has entered the 2nd level of alert. Gather all the jonin in the village and be on standby at any time. Uchiha and Hinata each send 5 jonin to support the border." Orders came out of Tsunade's mouth one after another, and the atmosphere instantly became tense. "I didn't expect that even the 4th Reikage would come," Naraku thought to himself. There were more and more things that surprised him. The 4th Reikage. He's the one who's almost as fast as the teacher. At this moment, a low voice came from Naraku's side. "Brother K, are you excited?" Melo thought to himself. Neither he nor Kakashi was too nervous at this time, and they were even a little excited. Maybe this was the passion that young people had. On the field. After giving many orders, Tsunade added one last sentence. "Later, Lugia will be in charge of the village for the time being, and I want to go to the border in person." This sentence stunned everyone present. Shikaku was the first to stand up and object. "Hokage-sama, you cannot go to the border. The Hokage must stay in the village and take charge." "Yes, just leave the border matters to us. It's safer for you to stay in the village. After all, U9's target is you." Someone echoed from the side. In fact, most of the people present knew something about Tsunade's homophobia, and it was impossible for her to go to the border in person. They didn't want another Hokage. "Okay, I've already done this." Just when Tsunade was about to slam the table again to refute, a familiar voice came over. "Leave it to me at the border. You should just stay in the village." A tall figure walked in slowly. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 109. Konoha becomes the target of public criticism. With long white hair and red paint on his face, the person coming was none other than Toad Sage Jiraiya, one of the Sennin Point. After seeing Jiraiya arriving, everyone in the venue secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Since Orochimaru's defection, Danzo's unexpected death, and the 3rd generation's inexplicable abdication, Jiraiya has undoubtedly become the strongest representative of the village's combat power. As for the younger generation of Kakashi, Shisu, and Naraku, although they are not weak in strength, most people think that they are still young. Even though his strength is good, there is still a long way to go compared to the powerful ninjas like the 4th Reikage who have been famous for a long time. But Jiraiya is different. The name of Sennin is very famous in the entire ninja world. After seeing Jiraiya, Tsunade also gave up the idea of going to the border in person. No one knew her situation better than her. Although the symptoms of homophobia were relieved a lot, there would still be some dangers if she participated in a shadow level battle. Very influential. Half a day later, Jiraiya, who had just rushed back to the village, set out again. Standing at the entrance of the village, he looked up at the Hokage rock. "Teacher, Minato, it's my turn to protect the village this time. I hope there won't be another war," he thought secretly in his heart. "Okay, Sensei, we should go." Naraku, who was standing next to Jiraiya at this moment, urged. This time he also wants to follow Jiraiya. Originally, Tsunade did not agree to let him follow. After all, he just had a battle with the Two Tails yesterday. Although the Uzumaki clan has a strong recovery physique, it is not possible in such a short time. Complete recovery is impossible. What's more, his pair of Mangekyou Sharingan are not far away from being completely useless. But in the end Naraku convinced Tsunade, of course on the condition that he could never use the Mangekyou Sharingan again. In addition to him, following Jiraiya were Kakashi, Itachi and several other Jounin. Then the group of people rushed towards the border under the leadership of Jiraiya. Brother K, how did you complete your mission? Naraku, who was walking at the back on the road, asked Kakashi in front. In response, Kakashi shook his head slightly and said, the Akatsuki organization is well hidden. K and I stayed there for more than 10 days and did not find any of their internal members. We only saw some of their believers. Is that right? He was not surprised by this result. He also knew that the Akatsuki organization was very low-key during this period, and almost no one in the ninja world had heard of them. In fact, Naraku was also very surprised that Tsunade would send Kakashi and 2 people to investigate the Rain Ninja Village. He planned to wait a few more years until he, Kakashi and others had grown up for a few years, and then set off to the Rain Ninja Village to do a big event. Who knew that he just mentioned a few things about the Akatsuki organization in front of Tsunade, but she actually took it to heart and sent Kakashi and Gai over to find out the information. Naraku did not stop this. He knew that the current Akatsuki organization was very hidden, and there were only a few internal members. It would be difficult for Kakashi and the others to discover anything. The fact was just as Naraku expected. Kakashi and the others returned empty-handed, but Naraku, suddenly, Kakashi in front, turned to Naraku and spoke, with only his exposed right eye narrowing slightly. Flying Thunder God, I have mastered the first stage. What? Naraku was completely shocked. Only those who have truly learned Flying Thunder God will know how difficult this ninjutsu is. Since Naruto was born, Naraku has slowly begun to study this ninjutsu, but until now he has not mastered it, not even the first stage. Before this, he and Kakashi were at about the same pace, but unexpectedly the latter had surpassed him now. As expected of me, Brother K, Naraku stuck out his thumb and gave it a thumbs up. Just some time ago, he also gave Shizu a copy of the learning method of the Flying Thunder God technique, just because he was worried that, if neither he nor Kakashi could learn it, Shizu might be able to. But now it seems that he himself is holding him back, and Kakashi has already taken the lead. Along the way, the 2 people kept discussing the training method of Flying Thunder God. Because Kakashi has only just mastered it at this time, not only does it consume a lot of chakra every time he uses Flying Thunder God, but it also affects his foothold and body's reaction speed. Now, although Kakashi can teleport himself, he sometimes loses control of his body. This requires long-term practice, otherwise his level of Flying Thunder God cannot be used on the battlefield. Speaking of the body's reaction speed, Naraku thought of his brother-in-law Minato. Only after coming into contact with the Flying Thunder God did he realize how powerful Minato's talent was. Needless to say, in terms of ninjutsu, being able to create the powerful Muji ninjutsu outside the spiral, and mastering the time and space ninjutsu, the Flying Thunder God jutsu, are enough to prove that his talent is top-notch. Another point is the body's reaction speed. Minato's reaction nerves are definitely different from ordinary people. The Flying Thunder God technique is a good proof. When using it on the battlefield, not only the opponent needs reaction time, but you yourself also need it. Otherwise, your opponent's Kyuubi may have penetrated your body before you can react. One day later, everyone arrived at the border of the country of Fire. Here Jiraiya took over the position of leader of Narashikamichi and personally took charge of the border the day after they arrived at the border. Kumogakyo's side took action. The 4th Raikage took several people to the border of Yuno country in person and sent someone to send them a message asking Konoha to return the two-tailed Yukito and Kumogakyo's mission to them as soon as possible. As for why the two-tailed Yuki appeared in Konoha, Kumogakyo gave a very ridiculous and nonsense explanation. Jiraiya, one of the 3 ninjas of Konoha, secretly sneaked into Cloud Hidden Village, defeated the two-tailed Jinchuriki, and brought him back to Konoha Village. For a time, the rumor that Konoha had snatched the Kumogakyo Jinchuriki spread throughout the ninja world. At the same time, the news that the Nine Tails had been separated and sealed also reached the ears of the major ninja villages. The two Kyuubi, plus Kumogakure's second tail, means that Konoha now has three-tailed beasts. The Kingdom of Earth and the Kingdom of Wind took action immediately. Under the same banner as Kumogakure, they also formed a team of envoys to visit Konoha. For a time, Konoha once again became the target of public criticism in the ninja world. In the border fortress, Jiraiya, who was sitting in the main seat, looked at the information in his hand with a serious look on his face. If it's just Kumogakure, Konoha won't be afraid of a fight, but if we add the Iwa ninja and Fu ninja, Konoha will not be able to withstand it now. Jiraiya felt an unprecedented pressure. Chapter 110 Battle with the Fourth Breakage. One day later, the border of the Kingdom of Fire. Two figures, one red and one silver, stood side by side. It was Naraku and Kakashi, and behind them stood a dozen Konoha elites. Just yesterday they received a summons from Tsunade, asking Jiraiya and the others to ignore the affairs of the Earth Country and the Wind Country for the time being. The most important thing now is to resolve Kumogakure. As for how to solve it and return the two tails, it was impossible. As for Kumogakure's mission, Tsunade did not return it and secretly controlled them. In fact, anyone with a little bit of brains knows that Konoha snatched the second tail of Kumogakure is a lie, but the reason why they don't want to believe it is just to get a piece of the pie and gain some benefits. However, they may have forgotten that Konoha was once powerful, and even though it has declined now, it is still not something that can be manipulated so easily. What's more, the Hokage of Konoha is now the powerful Tsunade. It looks like we are going to have a big fight today, Naraku said to Kakashi beside him. Okay. Kakashi nodded lightly. Naraku, are your eyes really okay? A look of worry appeared in Kakashi's exposed right eye. Now he has mastered the use of the Manger Key under Naraku's prompts, and Kamu has also used it several times. Therefore, regarding the Manger Key Sharingan, Kakashi knows in his heart that, while it brings powerful power, it also has serious sequelae. It's okay, I have found a way to solve the sequelae of Kaleidoscope. After I solve this problem, I will try it. Naraku shook his head slightly. Method, solution. Kakashi was slightly stunned by this, and he expressed doubts about it. After all, even the Uchiha clan cannot solve the problem of vision loss caused by excessive use of the Mangekyo Sharingan. Naraku didn't explain much about this, he just looked up and looked ahead when a group of people appeared there. The leader was a strong man with explosive muscles on his exposed upper body. This is the fourth Raikage, he's finally here. Kakashi's right eye narrowed slightly at this time, and a powerful aura was released from him. I can't embarrass you today, teacher. With this thought in his mind, Kakashi kicked his feet to the ground and disappeared in an instant. I can't wait any longer, Brother K. Naraku murmured. You guys stay here temporarily and wait for our notice. After explaining to the acquaintances behind him, Naraku disappeared in a flash. Captain Kakashi and Captain Naraku, can they really handle it? You must know that they are the fourth Raikage, someone said in a worried tone. Believe them. After all, one of them is the disciple of the fourth generation and the other is the younger brother of the fourth generation. Yeah, believe them. Looking at the backs of Naraku and Kakashi, they seemed to see the shadow of the fourth generation call out. Just as the fourth Raikage raised one foot and prepared to enter the land of fire, a blue thunder arrow tore through the air and stabbed straight towards him. Feeling the abnormality, the fourth Raikage frowned, then raised his right hand. A light blue arc flashed on his hand, and then he actually pinched the thunder arrow with one hand. Thunder escape. Looking at the thunder arrow in his hand, the fourth Raikage felt a familiar aura on it, and the next moment he used a little force to crush it directly. Wind escape. A big breakthrough. Fire escape. Dragon fire bullet. Just when the fourth Raikage was about to settle down, two low shouts sounded at the same time. At this time, Naraku and Kakashi were already standing not far in front. Without any words, they came up and started to attack directly. A violent gust of wind came out of Kakashi's mouth and blew hard in the direction of the fourth Raikage. At the same time, Naraku also opened his mouth and spit out a huge fireball that was directly over 3 meters. When the fireball turned into crimson flames encountered a strong wind. The wind helped the fire, and the flames became more fierce in an instant. turning into a sea of fire and sweeping forward. Seeing this, a hint of imperceptible shock flashed through the eyes of the fourth Raikage. It was not that he had never seen combined ninjutsu, but it was this level that even he had rarely seen. But he's here today. It wouldn't be very shameful if he couldn't even enter the fire country. You guys step back first and leave this place to me. The fourth Raikage waved slightly behind him. Most of the elite ninjas in Hidden Cloud Village are still guarding the village at this time. The few people behind him are not strong, so Raikage has no intention of letting them participate in the battle. Crack. Crack. The sound of thunder and lightning exploded, and blocks as thick as fingers surrounded Lei Ying's body. Facing the sea of fire, he had no intention of avoiding it. Puff. The fourth Raikage used his palm as a knife and slashed in the air. The airflow instantly rolled, and the air fluctuated violently, directly tearing a huge hole in the sea of fire. At the same time, his right leg, which had fallen backward, was raised again, preparing to fall forward. Suddenly, a clear sound broke through the air, and the next moment a silver blade appeared in the sight of the fourth Raikage. It was Kakashi who was holding the knife. Wherever the blade passed, the air was torn apart visibly. The fourth Raikage's pupils shrank. The silver-white blade gave him a feeling of invincibility. Thick blocks flashed on his body. The next moment, his body turned backwards at a high speed to avoid the blade's attack. At the same time, Raikage's originally raised right leg kicked forward fiercely, hitting Kakashi like a thunder axe. In this regard, Kakashi seemed not to notice Raikage's offensive and made no evasive movements. Suddenly, a golden light flashed, and 6 golden chains circled together, rushing towards Lei Ying like a roaring dragon. The chain is extremely fast. If Raikage insists on attacking Kakashi, he will definitely not be able to dodge the chain's attack. Naraku wanted to use this to help Kakashi out of trouble. However, he may have underestimated the fourth Raikage, because without even blinking, his right leg, that had already been kicked out, accelerated again, and with a bang, Kakashi was kicked backwards. Then he turned around quickly, clenched his fist, and rushed towards the golden chain that was about to approach him. Boom. There was a loud noise, and most of the huge chain composed of 6 chains was smashed into pieces. Naraku felt a strong backlash and numbness coming from the chain. The fourth Raikage is really strong, but that's what makes it more interesting. Naraku murmured, and then Kaguya's inner eye opened. The 6 golden chains disintegrated and began to attack Raikage from all directions. At the same time, Kakashi, who was holding swords in both hands, was glowing with blue light and joined the battlefield again. Chapter 111 Kakashi's Explosion. Flame Thunder Slash. Call out, call out, call out. On the field, golden chains tore through the air and attacked various parts of the fourth Raikage's body. ZHI. ZHI. At this time, the fourth Raikage's body was surrounded by electric arcs, and his speed was extremely fast. Even if the 6 diamond chains attacked together, they could not catch his figure. As expected of the fourth Raikage, this is the ultimate use of lightning speed. Naraku sighed in his heart. At this time, the fourth Raikage seemed to have turned into a real thunder shadow. To the naked eye, only a flash of blue lightning could be seen. But it won't work like this, Naraku thought to himself, and then his scarlet eyes slowly appeared, with 3 black magatama spinning rapidly in his eyes at the same time. Kakashi, who was holding a silver blade, was also covered in arcs of electricity, which was his Chidori style. However, compared to the fourth Raikage, his Chidori style is a little immature, and the increase in speed is not that strong. Currently, he can only fight against the fourth Raikage with Naraku's help. Konoha Village is really a place that makes people very jealous. Looking at Kakashi and Naraku in front of him, the fourth Raikage asked himself in his heart that he was far inferior to them at this age. However, geniuses who grow up are real geniuses, and you must be dealt with today. At this time, the 4th generation Raikage had the same thoughts as Yukato. Blue thunder and lightning wrapped around the body of the 4th Raikage, and a violent aura emanated from him. At this time, he looked like a berserker. The whole person exudes a powerful aura. In fact, after the 3rd Ninja War, the 4th Raikage rarely fought with all his strength. As the shadow of a village, except for some special events, there are almost no tasks that require him to perform personally, so he can only exercise in the village and beat his brother when he has nothing to do. But when he met Kakashi and Naraku today, the militant element in him was completely ignited. After feeling the violent aura of the fourth Raikage, Naraku and Kakashi's expression became serious. Today's fourth Raikage is in his 30s, in his prime, with physical strength, energy, and chakra. At this age, he is a top-notch existence in all aspects. Facing such a figure, they felt a strong pressure point, but this did not make them feel scared. On the contrary, they felt extremely excited at this time, with a sharp edge shining in their eyes looking at the fourth Raikage in front of him. Naraku's scholar eyes exuded an evil and dazzling light point. The next moment, another chain stretched out from his back, and a total of 7 chains launched a fierce attack on the fourth Raikage. Kakashi, whose body was filled with blue light, jumped up and stood on a golden chain. With a silver blade across his chest, and blue lightning condensed on the blade. Facing the two men's cooperation, the fourth Raikage was not afraid at all. His whole body was surrounded by violent thunder and lightning. The next moment, his body transformed into a blue shadow and rushed towards Kakashi at great speed. Swish! In just an instant, the fourth Raikage broke through the entanglement of several diamond chains and came to Kakashi, who was standing on the chains, and then shouted lowly, "Heavy flow storm!" The fourth Raikage's right elbow slammed into Kakashi in front of him. Blue thunder and lightning surrounded his elbow, exuding endless power. Thunder! Slash! Kakashi's face froze at this. The chakra in his body burst out violently, and he quickly swung the sword after charging up. The sound of thunder condensed on the blade, and the dense blue lightning turned into a thunder and lightning blade. At this time, Kakashi was like a man and a sword merging into one. He swung out a sword and transformed into a shadow, carrying powerful thunder power. This is Brother K's current strength. He has indeed become a lot stronger. Naraku, who was watching the battle not far away, murmured, perhaps to give the two a chance to confront each other. Naraku did not take action at this time, but chose to wait and see. But even so, his body was still slightly tense. If something unexpected happened, he would definitely react immediately. Crack. Crack, the dense thunder and lightning kept making crackling sounds. At this moment, the thunderous sword light collided with the fourth generation Raikage's elbow. Boom. A violent air current surged, and the surrounding air fluctuated like a tide. At this moment, the thunderous sword light collided with the fourth generation Raikage's elbow. Boom. This moment, sweat was dripping from Kakashi's forehead. At this moment, he felt endless pressure. He felt that the blade in his hand was not touching a human body at all, but a violent energy. The silver blade, visible to the naked eye, was blocked in front of his elbow, and even though it was only a small distance away, Kakashi couldn't go any further, even if he tried his best. The fourth Raikage on the other side looked heavy. The young man wearing a mask in front of him actually made him feel pressure. Even though it was only a trace, it was still difficult for him to accept. Strong killing intent was released from his body, and the next moment he used strength again, and his elbow was like a cannonball, hitting Kakashi hard. Unable to withstand this huge force, Kakashi could only keep retreating with his sword. Sure. Enough. This is just too much, Kakashi murmured in his heart. If that's the case, then let's fight. Boom. Suddenly there was a muffled sound from Kakashi's body, and the next moment a hot and violent energy surged out of his body. Kakashi, like the third generation known as the Ninja Professor, was born with 5 chakra attributes. Normally, he usually only uses the Thunder attribute chakra to fight. This is just that he is better at the Thunder attribute, but it does not mean that he is not good at other attributes. Crimson fire chakra like lava surged out of his body, and the next moment all of this chakra converged on the silver knife in his hand. For a moment, blue electric arcs and crimson flames appeared on the blade at the same time. Fire and thunder were two extremely violent energies, and now when combined together, it seemed as if they would explode at any time. Even the fourth Raikage's expression changed slightly after seeing this move. Fire thunder slash. At this moment, Kakashi shouted, holding the knife in both hands, and exerted force on his arms. A sword light formed by the simultaneous convergence of blue and red energy was condensed on the blade, and an extremely violent momentum emitted from the sword light. The next moment, Kakashi exerted force on his waist, stopped his retreating figure, and at the same time, swung the sword light on the blade forward point the moment the blue and red sword light came into contact with the protective lightning light on the fourth Raikage's body. The former tore the latter into pieces in an extremely domineering way. Seeing this scene, the expression of the fourth Raikage suddenly changed, and before he could hesitate, an even more violent energy burst out from his body. Chapter 112. Concentrate on admiring the dance of the fourth Raikage. At the border of the fire country, at this time, the fourth generation Raikage's whole body was surrounded by dense and violent thunder and lightning, and even his powerful back and head stood up point. If he had just entered the first mode of thunder chakra, then he had entered the second mode now. In this mode, the speed and strength of the fourth generation Raikage have been significantly improved. He just turned around slightly and dodged Kakashi's flame thunder slash attack. Thunder torture level Chiyoda dance. Suddenly a loud shout came, and the fourth Raikage, whose whole body was wrapped in dense thunder and lightning, used his palm as a sword and struck hard at Kakashi. This is a ninja technique unique to Kumogakure's lineage. It is extremely powerful. It is said that the horn on the eight-tail's head was cut off by this technique. For a moment, Kakashi felt an intimidating aura, and without any hesitation, he formed a mark with one hand. The next moment, a blue shadow suddenly appeared in front of him. It was the fourth Raikage. At this time, he was using his hand as a sword and maintaining a slashing posture. But at this time, there was a hint of shock in his eyes. This is that guy's ninjutsu, the fourth Raikage murmured in his mouth as he looked at the figure that suddenly disappeared in front of him. The Flying Thunder God technique is indeed going to reappear in the ninja world. A look of shock appeared in his eyes. That's right, Kakashi just used the Flying Thunder God technique to escape before the fourth Raikage's attack came. Not bad, Brother K, you didn't even touch anyone's hair. Naraku's teasing voice came, and then he turned his head and looked behind him. There was a thin figure there. It was Kakashi who had just disappeared point facing Naraku's teasing. Kakashi rolled his eyes helplessly. Although the fourth Raikage was very powerful, he had not touched even a hair at this time. You can see that there is a clearly visible small wound on the elbow of the fourth Raikage, and a few drops of red blood slowly dripped from there. It can be seen that, although Kakashi's offensive just now was completely destroyed by the fourth Raikage, it was not without any effect. The fourth Raikage on the other side looked up at Kakashi, who appeared behind Naraku. After a complicated look flashed in his eyes, a strong killing intent burst out from him. The Flying Thunder God technique used by Kakashi reminded him of the blonde man who used the Flying Thunder God technique to suppress both him and Kirabi at the same time. Although he was very unconvinced, he also understood that at that time, the fourth generation strength was indeed far greater than his. But now you are dead, and your apprentice is about to die, the fourth Raikage said secretly in his heart, and then he no longer hesitated, and rushed towards Naraku and the two of them in a flash. At this time, Kakashi was about to fight again with a knife, but Naraku stopped him with his hand. Leave it to me next, Brother K, just enjoy the dance, that is unique to the fourth Raikage. Naraku murmured in his mouth. Then a large amount of chakra burst out from his body, and the next moment he used a move very similar to that of the fourth Raikage. Crack. Crack. The same blow arc appeared instantly and wrapped around his body, but compared to the fourth Raikage, the lightning on his body did not look so violent. Looking at Naraku, whose whole body was covered with thunder and lightning, and then turning his head to glance at Kakashi behind him, the fourth Raikage felt another anger rising in his heart. In fact, he just felt that the way the thunder attribute chakra circulated in Kakashi was very similar to their thunder escape chakra mode of Kumogakure, but he didn't care. After all, although Kumogakure is good at thunder escape, it does not mean that other ninja villages cannot use thunder escape ninjutsu. But now he didn't think so. Looking at the blue arcs flowing on Naraku's body, the fourth Raikage was convinced that it was their secret technique of Kumogakure. How to use Thunder Escape Armor. Thunder Escape Armor is a very special secret technique of lightning escape. Even in U9 village, not everyone is qualified to practice this secret technique. The fourth Raikage would never have imagined that his secret technique would be mastered by his enemy, and he seemed to master it well. In his opinion, the thunder armor used by Naraku has reached the first stage and is not even far away from the second stage point. With this kind of progress, there is simply no one in Union Village who can compare with it. It's no wonder that Toru talks about you all day long. Uzumaki Naraku is really a shocking guy, but you too. I have to explain everything here today. The fourth Raikage, who murmured a few words, surged rapidly and arrived in front of Naraku almost in the blink of an eye. The right fist was swung out with such force that even the air was shattered by the fierce wind of the fist. Naraku only felt an invincible aura coming from him. The next moment, 7 golden chains came together and then formed a golden shield in front of him. At the same time, Kakashi behind Naraku quietly unlocked the 4 elephant seals. The scarlet left eye appeared, and the 3 black magatama in the scarlet eye were connected together. The black triangular windmill slowly circulated in his left eye. He was carefully observing the special trajectory of the thunder attribute chakra on the 4th Raikage's body. Thunder armor. This special secret technique is no worse than the forbidden technique developed by the 2nd Hokage. In some respects, the 4th Raikage has only reached the 2nd stage, and his strength is already in the first echelon of the ninja world. There is also the former 3rd Raikage, who is known as Kumogaku's strongest spear and shield. Even the 8 tails can hardly break through his defense. What they relied on was the secret technique of thunder escape armor. Therefore, before the battle with the 4th Raikage, Naraku reminded Kakashi of this. So in this battle, the two people will fight against the 4th Raikage separately, in order to secretly learn the secret of the thunder armor technique. As for the immorality of this kind of behavior, no one in this ninja world would care about it. Otherwise the Uchiha clan would have become extinct long ago. Boom. On the field, the fist of the 4th Raikage directly hit the golden shield. In just a moment, the shield disintegrated like earth and turned into streaks of golden light scattered. Naraku was not surprised by this. Although the diamond chain is a very powerful ninjutsu, it is obvious that this technique is not good enough to deal with the 4th Raikage. At the moment, when the shield shattered, Naraku also started to move. He moved forward without retreating, raised his arms, and rushed straight towards the 4th Raikage in front of him. ZHI. ZHI. A dazzling lightning appeared on his palm. From a distance, it looked like a sharp blade that could cut off thunder and lightning. Chapter 113. Naraku fights the 4th Raikage. Rachel. On the field, Naraku gave a low shout and used Kakashi's famous ninjutsu. As its name suggests, Raikiri can cut off thunder and lightning falling from the sky. Boom. The iron fist of the 4th Raikage collided heavily with the Raikiri in Naraku's hand. For a moment, blue electric arcs spread out in all directions, and extremely rich thunder attribute energy gathered here. At this time, Naraku had already opened Kagura's inner eye, and his scarlet eyes were shining with dazzling red light, and the pattern of a 6-pointed star flashed in his eyes. Although his eyesight has completely declined, Naraku can't care so much at this time. He knows very well that, if he does not use the main Jiki Sharingan, even if he and Kakashi join forces, it will be difficult to defeat the 4th Raikage. The best case scenario is that the two sides fight to a draw, but this is not what Naraku wants. They wanted to intimidate Union, but if it was just like this, it would not have any deterrent effect at all. So now he has to defeat the 4th Raikage from the front. Only in this way can Kumogaku give up his plot against Konoha in a short time and make other people who are also eyeing Konoha feel afraid. Both foreigners have the Sharingan. It seems that this blood succession limit is not exclusive to one clan. Looking at Naraku's scarlet eyes, the 4th Raikage secretly thought in his heart, in this case, just take your bodies back and study them. The 4th Raikage exerted force on his feet and took a step back. Naraku had no intention of pursuing this. Although Raikiri was very powerful, it obviously couldn't do much harm to a powerful person like the 4th Raikage. Righteous Thunder Axe. Suddenly, the 4th Raikage let out a low shout, and then his strong body jumped up high, and his outstretched right leg struck straight at Naraku. The right leg wrapped in thunder and lightning was like a real sharp axe, exuding an extremely violent momentum. It's time to show off your real dance moves, Naraku thought to himself, and then his eyes narrowed slightly. The next moment, a dazzling golden light rose into the sky, and with it appeared a skeleton giant made of golden skeletons. It is Susanoo, who is known as the strongest defense in the ninja world. However, Naraku knew clearly that Susanoo would not be able to withstand the attack of the fourth Raikage if it was only in the first stage. The powerful eye power and chakra burst out at the same time. The golden skeleton rose several meters in an instant, and the flesh-like golden energy inside made it fuller. Boom. Suddenly, a loud noise came from the golden Susan, and then Susan's huge body trembled slightly. At this time, it can be seen that the fourth Raikage's powerful kick has landed on Susanoo, and the place where he was kicked instantly collapsed into a large piece. As expected of the fourth Raikage, even Susan in the second stage could barely block his attack. Naraku sighed in admiration in his heart. In his opinion, in this ninja world, except for those ninjas with special bloodlines, it is admirable for ninjas like the fourth Raikage who have no bloodline limits to grow to this stage. Naraku asked himself in his heart, if he did not have both Uchiha and Uzumaki bloodlines, he would not be able to have this strength at this age. You can actually master this level of power, the fourth Raikage murmured with a gloomy face. Similar to Yukito, he also had an illusion in his mind. Is there going to be another existence like the first Hokage in Konoha? No, absolutely not. His face was as gloomy as water. At this moment, the murderous intention in the fourth Raikage's heart was completely released, and violent thunder surrounded him. At this moment, all the power in his body exploded. The body moved quickly, and with the help of powerful impact, it rushed towards Naraku at extremely high speed. Thunder escape, thunder pair hot knife. With a low shout, the fourth Raikage at this time showed an even faster speed than before. Even Naraku's main Jiki Sharingan could only barely see a blue shadow. In fact, it is not difficult for Naraku, who has Kaguya's inner eye, to sense the position of the fourth Raikage. What is difficult is that it is difficult to keep up with his speed. Since we can't keep up with the speed, can we only passively defend? In that case, let's try this trick. The moment Naraku finished speaking, a violent and rapid energy surged out of his body and rushed towards the golden Susan. The next moment, huge blowups appeared on the golden Susan. Naraku learned this move based on Sasuke in the original work. Thunder and lightning are attached to Susan, which can not only greatly improve Susan's defense ability, but also give him a certain attack power. The fourth Raikage also saw the thick thunder wrapped around the golden Susanoo at this time. It's just a joke. The fourth Raikage snorted in his heart, raised his right fist high, and transformed into a bolt of thunder, rushing towards the golden Susanoo. At this time, the golden Susan also did not sit still, and waited for death. Under Naraku's control, a huge fist-emitting golden light quickly hit the ground. However, the fourth Raikage's speed was too fast. Although the golden Susanoo had exploded with all his speed, the fist he threw out was still easily dodged by the opponent. The next moment, a blue shadow rushed towards him and appeared under the half-length Susanoo. It was none other than the fourth Raikage. Boom. In an instant, a powerful force was fed back to Susan, and the fourth Raikage's violent punch hit Susan directly from the front. Even with the blessing of thunder and lightning, golden Susanoo was still blasted with a big hole when faced with the full blow of the fourth Raikage. It was successful. The fourth Raikage looked at the broken Susan in front of him. Naraku was standing in front of him at this moment. Without any hesitation, the fourth Raikage kicked his feet on the ground, and his whole body exuded an extremely violent momentum, and blasted forward again fist. Without Susanoo to stop him, Naraku would never be able to withstand this punch. Boom. But the next moment, Naraku's figure disappeared, and a white mist appeared in front of the fourth Raikage. Shadow. Clone. How is this possible? The fourth Raikage's expression changed, and at this moment a figure suddenly appeared behind him. It was Naraku. A tear of blood flowed from his scarlet right eye. Black flame thunder. Naraku whispered. A cluster of black flames appeared on the body of the fourth Raikage, and at this moment he felt a strong sense of crisis. Without any hesitation, violent thunder attribute chakra burst out from the body again. At this time, the fourth Raikage had exerted all his strength. The cluster of black flames seemed to be suppressed by the lightning on the fourth Raikage's body, and the flames began to shake violently, like a candle that would go out at any time. Chapter 114. The spear penetrated the body. You can even suppress this move. Looking at the fourth breakage in front of him, Naraku frowned slightly. He did not expect that the other party could even suppress the black flame thunder. The small flame attached to its body was crumbling, as if it would go out in the next moment. Can't let go of this opportunity, Naraku whispered in his heart, and then his pupil power radiated wildly. The small flame that was about to extinguish seemed to have been added with some fuel, and it began to grow rapidly in an instant. And the already broken golden Susan also began to recover quickly. Susan directly covered the fourth breakage inside. This was a trick Naraku came up with specifically to counter the fourth breakage's unparalleled speed. Otherwise, he felt that even the black flame thunder might not be able to keep up with the speed of the fourth breakage. After all, the black flame thunder's movement speed was based on the movement speed of his sight point, but his sight couldn't keep up with the opponent's movement speed, so Naraku could only use this move. However, releasing Susanoo and black flame thunder at the same time made his pair of Mangekyou Sharingan, which was already under load, even weaker. At this time, Naraku could clearly feel that the vision in his eyes was declining. This degree was almost catching up with his myopia of more than 500 degrees in his previous life. Kakashi, who noticed the abnormality on the other side, appeared next to Naraku in a flash, and a slightly worried tone came from his mouth. Naraku, your eyes. Looking at the pair of eyes that were constantly bleeding red blood, an ominous premonition suddenly arose in Kakashi's heart point. Boom. At this moment, a violent breath came from the front point. Kakashi looked up and saw that a big hole had been opened in the golden Susanoo again, and a figure covered in black flame slowly walked out from inside point. At this time, the fourth breakage exuded a terrifying aura. Kakashi only felt that he was not facing a person, but like a beast. With the silver short blade across his chest, Kakashi stepped forward to block Naraku. Just as he was about to attack the fourth breakage, Naraku reached out and held down his shoulder. The next moment, Shankan was activated, and his and Kakashi's figures disappeared in an instant, while two more figures appeared behind the golden Susanoo, and they were Naraku and others. There's no need to fight him now. He's too busy to take care of himself. After being hit by the black flame thunder, Naraku said calmly to Kakashi. With Kaguya's inner eye open, his perception ability is several times stronger than Kakashi's. He can clearly sense that there are two extremely violent energies competing with each other in the fourth breakage. After Naraku desperately released his pupil power, the black flame thunder had already formed a climate. Even if it did not break through the violent thunder and lightning defense of the fourth breakage for the time being, it was only a matter of time. Black flame thunder possesses the characteristics of Amaterasu's flames, and as long as anything is contaminated by it, it cannot be extinguished. As long as the fourth breakage relaxes for a moment, the black thunder will take advantage of it and burn it to pieces. In this state, it was impossible for the fourth breakage to attack Naraku and the others while distracted. At this time, Naraku suddenly thought of a question. How did Sasuke in the original work use Amaterasu to easily destroy an arm of the fourth breakage? If the opponent also used Thunder Attribute Chakra to resist, even Sasuke's Amaterasu would not be able to succeed so easily. Naraku shook his head slightly. Naraku, the fourth breakage cannot die yet. A familiar voice came over at this moment. Then a tall figure appeared in front of Naraku and the others. The person with long white hair and red paint on his face was none other than Jiraiya. Jiraiya-sama, teacher. Seeing the visitor, Kakashi and Naraku shouted at the same time. Looking at the two people with childish expressions in front of him, Jiraiya was shocked at this moment, especially Naraku. He did not expect that his disciple had grown to this point. Even he himself was not 100% sure of defeating the fourth breakage. Jiraiya was full of relief, but also a little worried. He had also heard about the disadvantages of the Mangekyou Sharingan, but he knew that now was not the time to discuss this, and his eyes fell on Naraku again. Naraku smiled helplessly at this. He was not surprised by Jiraiya's arrival. In fact, when they first started fighting the fourth breakage, Jiraiya was hiding around. Originally, he was worried about the safety of Naraku and Kakashi, but now this concern has changed. Although he didn't want to waste this opportunity, Naraku also knew that now was not the best time to kill the fourth breakage. If the fourth breakage died here now, the fourth ninja war might be brought forward. There were things Naraku hadn't finished yet, so now wasn't the best time. Then Naraku raised his head and looked forward, where a pitch black flame appeared, with a thick black arc flashing inside the flame. At this time, the fourth Raikage's whole body was covered in black thunder, and Naraku felt that the lightning on his body had begun to be assimilated by the black thunder. Even if I can't kill you, I can't let you leave here so easily, Naraku murmured in his mouth, and then disappeared in a flash. When he reappeared, he was already in front of the fourth Raikage, who was covered in black flame swish. The moment Naraku appeared, the fourth Raikage fiercely attacked him. The fourth Raikage was a strong man. Even in this situation, he never thought of surrendering, and even risked his life to attack Naraku. But it was obvious that he had miscalculated. The golden Susanoo covered Naraku's body as if teleporting, and the body of the fourth Raikage was also blocked. In his current state, he could no longer break through Golden Susan's defense, no matter how hard he tried. Even because he had just used his strength to attack Naraku, his defense against Black Flame Thunder was lowered, so Black Flame Thunder invaded his body in an instant. The next moment, a line of white smoke rose, and a red wound instantly appeared on the fourth Raikage's arm. Because the black flames will be wrapped around the fourth Raikage's body at this time, he cannot get rid of all the black flames, even if he breaks his arm. At this moment, the fourth Raikage seemed to be in a dead end point. If Naraku had the intention at this time, he could even kill him directly, but he did not do that. Noisy. The golden Susanoo held his hands in vain, and then a spear formed by thunder and lightning appeared in the hands of the golden Susanoo. The next moment, the golden Susanoo exerted force with both arms, and the lightning spear thrust straight forward like a thunder dragon. There was the fourth Raikage who was completely covered by the black flame thunder path. The next moment, the lightning spear directly penetrated the body of the fourth Raikage. Chapter 115 Kumoga gave the two tails to Konoha, the border of the Fire Nation. Boom. The fourth Raikage, whose body was pierced by the lightning spear, fell to the ground, and the black thunder raged on his body. At this moment, he completely lost his ability to resist. It should be almost done, Naraku murmured in his heart, and then powerful pupil power came out from his right eye. The next moment, the black flame attached to the fourth Raikage slowly rose and flowed towards Naraku's right eye. After all the black flames were withdrawn, it could be seen that the fourth Raikage's body was scorched black everywhere, and the white hair combed back turned into nothingness. Lord Raikage. At this moment, several figures suddenly appeared beside the fourth Raikage, firmly behind them. They were all people who had just been brought over by the fourth Raikage. Because they were not strong enough, they did not dare to approach the battlefield at first. However, judging from the current situation, they were worried that, if they did not come again, they might not even see their own Raikage for the last time. Can't see it anymore. Go. The few people who came here didn't say anything. Two of them looked at Naraku with vigilance. The remaining people lifted the fourth Raikage from the ground and turned around to walk away. But in the next second, two figures appeared blocking their way. It was Jiraiya and Kakashi. Everyone from Union villages so far away, wouldn't it be a bit outrageous if you didn't come to our Konoha village to sit here? Jiraiya's cold voice slowly reached everyone's ears. Aha. At this moment, more than a dozen figures appeared here instantly, tightly surrounding Union's people. By now, several members of Kumoga also understood that the situation was out of control. In the end, they gave up their resistance and became prisoners of Konoha together with the fourth Raikage. 3 days later, a piece of dramatic news spread throughout the ninja world. Kumoga signed a peace treaty with Konoha again and became an ally. In order to show his friendly side, Kumoga directly gave the Tittel Jinchuriki to Konoha. After this news spread, Union Village became the laughing stock of the 5 major countries. Cloud Hidden Village, the home of the fourth Raikage. At this time, he was covered with white bandages in many places on his body, and his face was so gloomy that it looked like it was dripping water. This time he was completely screwed. Damn. Anoki. A silent curse came from the 4th generation Raikage's mouth. The reason why Kumoga bowed to Konoha was partly because he was defeated and became a prisoner of Konoha, and partly because of the Anoki in his mouth. When Kumoga and Konoha were competing, Anoki ostensibly sent an envoy to Konoha, but secretly he gathered forces to attack Kumogakure. Kumogakure, who lacked the Tokage level powerhouses of the 4th Raikage and Yukito, would definitely be unstoppable if he faced the attack of the Earth Kingdom at this time point, so they had no choice but to agree to Konoha's unfair treaty. This time Kumogakure's action against Konoha can be said to be a waste of money. Losing the second tail means that they have lost one of their top combat power. Now he and Kirabe are the only 2 people left in the village. Shadow level powerhouse. Although it is not weak compared to Tsunagakure and Kirigakure, it is still much worse than the previous state of 1 village and 3 shadows. This time the 4th Raikage felt deeply frustrated. The border of the Kingdom of Wind, the yellow sand was raging in the sky, and 4 figures appeared on the originally silent border. The person at the front with silver hair and a thin figure was Kakashi. Standing on both sides of him were Naraku and Shizu. The last person is slightly thin and has 2 deep ravines on his face. It was Itachi Uchiha. After solving Kumogakure's troubles, Tsunade sent several of them here with only one purpose, which was to let Tsunagakure see Konoha's current strength. Kumogakure is already involved in the Kingdom of Earth, so as long as the hidden dangers in the Kingdom of Wind are resolved, the situation in Konoha will be temporarily stable. Master's wife will be very worried if you act like this. Kakashi turned to look at Naraku aside and said helplessly. After the battle with the 4th Raikage, Naraku's eyesight was extremely reduced due to excessive consumption of pupil power in his eyes, and now he can only barely see. In response, Tsunade directly ordered him to be relieved of his status as Anbu captain, and he was not allowed to go out to perform missions until a solution was found. Kushina was also very worried about this. So regarding this operation of the Kingdom of Wind, Tsunade did not let Naraku participate at all. This time he just sneaked out. Facing Kakashi, who looked helpless on the side, Naraku looked nonchalant and said, "It's okay. I also want to see the strength of the 4th Kazekage." Kakashi felt helpless about this, but Naraku had already followed him here, and he couldn't let him go back. There was no other way, so in the end he had no choice but to compromise, and the 4 of them rushed in the direction of Tsunagakure village. They did not hide their identities and auras. This time they were extremely high profile, and did not hide their figures. After entering the Kingdom of Wind, they rushed straight towards the sand-hidden village. Not long after they entered the border, 2 figures suddenly appeared and stopped in front of the 4 of them. "You are the ninjas of Konoha?" the leading man asked, as if he felt that Naraku and the others were not easy to mess with. There was a hint of nervousness in the man's tone. "We received a notice from the Hokage-sama to come to the Kingdom of Wind to visit the Kazekage-sama," Kakashi said with a cold face and a neither salty nor cool tone. "Visiting the Kazekage-sama?" The man looked at the 4 people with suspicion, especially the swords carried behind Shizu and Itachi. There are visitors who carry a few knives, he thought to himself. But he didn't say anything else. He just quickly passed on the news. He could feel that the 4 people in front of him were much stronger than himself. Not to mention that there were only 2 of them now. He felt that even if all the ninjas guarding the border were added together, they might not be able to defeat these people in front of him. Apparently, his feeling was right. Even Itachi, the weakest among the 4 of them, now has a strength that is no less than that of a Jonin. Not to mention Naraku and the others. Facing the obstruction of the 2 people in front of them, the 4 of them didn't take it to heart, and they continued to move forward without stopping. The 2 people who noticed the abnormality reacted immediately. They left the place in a flash and appeared in the yellow sand not far away. Then Naraku and the others didn't pursue him. He was just a border guard and couldn't attract their attention at all. After about half a day passed, a village surrounded by yellow sand appeared in front of several people. It is Tsunagakure village. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 116. Feng Ying is not very hospitable. Perhaps because someone had notified them in advance, a lot of people had gathered at the gate of Tsunagakure village. He has short brown hair and a mesh top underneath his black ninja uniform. The person standing at the front is none other than the fourth Kazakage. Rasa. Perhaps it was because he did not welcome the arrival of Naraku and the others. At this time, Alyosha's face was covered with frost. His hands were folded across his chest, and his slightly domineering eyes fell on these people. Konoha ninjas, go back where you came from. You are not welcome here, Alyosha said, her voice cold and emotionless. Okay. Naraku frowned slightly. He couldn't understand Alyosha's thoughts. You must know that the mission you sent to Konoha, Rasa, was treated with courtesy by Konoha. Even Tsunade met with them several times in person, giving the country of wind enough face. Why did you, Alyosha, reject it personally? At this moment, Naraku felt that there must be something fishy here, or that something big was going to happen in Tsunagakure village now, and he didn't want them to enter the village at this time. But Naraku and the others had received the mission after all, and there was no way they would leave here, just because of Alyosha's words. Lord Kazakage, isn't it normal for the country of fire and the country of wind to visit each other as allies? Do you want to abrogate the peace treaty you signed before? Kakashi took a step forward and said in a calm tone. After speaking, a fierce aura emanated from him. The only exposed right eye was slightly narrowed, and he was planning to take action if he disagreed. At this time, Kakashi was confident. Even if he faced the entire Tsunagakure, he was not afraid. Even if the fourth Kazakage is very strong, Kakashi feels that he cannot be stronger than the fourth Raikage, not to mention that now he has mastered the Flying Thunder God. If he is really defeated, he can just take Naraku and the others out of here. Insanity. Hearing Kakashi's almost threatening words, Alyosha's expression changed instantly, and he swung his right hand forward fiercely. Wow. I saw a ball of golden sand emerging from the ground and heading towards Naraku and the others at great speed. Place of gold, a special ninjutsu created by Rasa, based on the previous Kazakage's ninjutsu, that manipulated magnetism. Sand gold can transform into any form for attack and defense, and is the most terrifying weapon in Sand Hidden Village. Alyosha relied on his unpredictable place of gold to suppress the rampaging Yui several times. Aha, aha, aha. Sounds of breaking through the air were heard, and several people quickly left the place, avoiding Sanjin's attack. It seems that Lord Kazakage is not very hospitable. In that case, Naraku murmured, and was about to step forward to see how good Alyosha was dancing, but someone rushed over before him. The black mask and long silver white hair are none other than Kakashi. Well, you really didn't give me any chance. Naraku looked helpless. In fact, Kakashi warned him on the way and told him not to take action easily again. Kakashi can also understand this. After all, his pair of Mangekyou Sharingan has almost reached its limit, and now his main source of power still relies on the Mangekyou Sharingan. Now, if he doesn't use the Mangekyou Sharingan, his strength is at most a little stronger than the Elite Jounin, but still far from the cage level. It seems that we should solve this problem as soon as possible. Naraku murmured in his heart. On the field, Kakashi was already fighting with Rasa at this time. A ball of golden sand gold followed Kakashi, attacking him very quickly. His right eye narrowed slightly, and a white short blade appeared in his hand instantly. Then Kakashi exerted force while rotating his waist, and the white short blade drew a silver light in the air. The next moment, the rushing gold dust shattered directly from the middle point. In response to this, Alyosha, who was manipulating gold dust not far away, gradually became cautious in his eyes. You must know that his gold dust contains his chakra, and it is impossible for ordinary weapons to break it. Could he be looking at Kakashi's iconic white hair? A familiar figure flashed in Alyosha's heart. How take Kakashi in this case? It seems that I can keep you today. A killing intention flashed in Alyosha's heart. The next moment, the gold dust cut off by Kakashi reorganized instantly and continued to rush towards Kakashi ahead. At this moment, Kakashi suddenly felt that the ground under his feet began to loosen. It was Rasa who manipulated the place of gold to erode the ground under Kakashi's feet. Kakashi's figure gradually fell downwards. Kakashi, Shisu, who was watching the battle not far away, let out an exclamation and was about to go to the rescue in a flash. However, after he turned around and saw Ne, who looked like nothing was wrong, he gave up the idea of rescue. In his opinion, Naraku is stronger than him and has a better relationship with Kakashi. if the other party is really in any danger, Naraku can't just watch like this. At this time, Itachi, who was standing next to Shizu, had opened his Sharingan, and 3 black magatama were slowly flowing in his eyes. Itachi secretly thought in his heart, and then a blue figure appeared in his sight. ZHI. The blue figure was Kakashi, and he was surrounded by blue arcs of electricity. After witnessing the dance moves unique to the 4th Raikage, Kakashi has a deeper understanding of the Thunder Attribute Chakra, so now his Chidori style has gone one step further. Both defensive capabilities and speed have been significantly improved. In this state, Kakashi's speed increased greatly. He jumped out of the trapped gold in a flash, and then rushed towards Ratsa like a thunder shadow. Naraku has great trust in Kakashi's strength. Even though Ratsa's place of gold is very strong, he believes that Kakashi is no weaker than the opponent now. Shizu, Itachi, I leave this place to you. After the sound of the two fighting attracted everyone's attention, Naraku left a shadow clone, and left. Zisu and Itachi looked at each other's leaving figures. After looking at each other, Zisu spread his hands helplessly. Let him go. This mission has nothing to do with him anyway. Zisu comforted himself in his heart. Although Kakashi here was extremely fast, he was still blocked by a wall made of sand gold that suddenly rose in front of him. It's really troublesome, Kakashi murmured in his heart, holding the short blade in his right hand. A blue arc of electricity instantly appeared on the silver blade, and a roar like thunder came from the blade. The next moment, Kakashi swung his sword fiercely, the thunder flashed, the man and the sword merged into one, and a sword full of thunder and lightning was struck out. Boom. There was a loud noise, and the lightning blade directly tore a large hole open the moment it touched the sand gold wall. Chapter 117. I must break through your defense this time. Alyosha's expression did not change at all after seeing his gold dust wall being broken open. Whether this is the country of wind or Sunagakure village, no one may know that he has stored a large amount of placer gold underground in the entire Sunagakure village. He originally planned to exchange this placer gold for a sum of supplies with other countries, but what he didn't expect was that first came in handy. Wow. The moment the wall shattered, a ball of placer gold emerged from the ground again and surged towards the broken ground. In response, Kakashi narrowed his right eye slightly, and the next moment he threw the white short blade in his hand. Call out. The white short blade tore through the air, sprang out from the broken hole in the sand gold wall, and stabbed straight towards Alyosha. At the same time, his other hand had completed the seal formation, and then he shouted, Shuriken Shadow Clone Technique. The next moment, the short blade that just flew out flashed slightly, and then turned into dozens of short blades, and rushed towards Alyosha at the same time. Facing the attack of dozens of short blades, a solemn look appeared on his face. Then he stretched out his hand and waved forward, and another ball of placer gold sprang out from the ground to block him. Boom, boom, boom. The short blade continued to fall on the placer gold and turned into bursts of smoke. Crack, crack. At this moment, the sounds of thunder and lightning exploded from within the gold-dusted wall just now. It was Kakashi. At this moment, blue lightning flashed on his right hand, and arcs of arcs jumped around his hand, making roaring sounds, as if many birds were chirping at the same time. It was Kakashi's own thunder escape ninjutsu, Chidori. Alyosha, who was attracted by this move, cast his gaze there. What he didn't notice was that a short blade was inserted into the ball of placer gold in front of him. Now, Kakashi murmured in his heart, and then formed a mark with one hand, flying. Thunder God Technique. The next moment, his figure suddenly disappeared and appeared in front of Alyosha. Alyosha, who had just turned his head, instantly felt a blue figure appear in his sight. Before he could think about it, he kicked his feet on the ground and retreated quickly. But the next second, a ball of lightning appeared in his sight. It was Kakashi's Chidori. His left hand was holding the short blade, and the ball of placer gold had long been defeated. The moment Chidori, who was just above Kakashi's right hand, was about to touch Rasa, another ball of gold dust appeared between the two, preparing to separate them. Take Kakashi, you are still too old. Just when Alyosha was about to say something, a flash of blue light suddenly appeared, and the next moment he felt a sharp pain in his chest. Wow. Then a large ball of placer gold appeared and distanced the two people. This is. Alyosha looked down at her broken chest. After a flash of shock in her eyes, a surge of anger suddenly rose. He is the shadow of a village, but he was hurt by a junior in front of him. This is a shame. But he soon calmed down. This was Sunagakure village after all, and the villagers here were all supportive of him. He must not break out in anger here, otherwise he might destroy Sunagakure village. Sure enough, it's still blocked. Looking at Rasa's chest that had been repaired with gold, Kakashi murmured in his mouth. Placer gold armor uses chakra to attach placer gold to the surface of the body, which can greatly enhance the body's defense capabilities. It is also the last layer of defense for Alyosha. Then he flicked his right hand slightly, and a spear formed by blue lightning dissipated in the air. The Chidori sharp spear is a powerful ninjutsu that can extend the thunder and lightning based on the Chidori. It was modified by Kakashi, based on Naraku's ideas. Wow. At this time, Rasa launched an attack on Kakashi again, and balls of sand gold rushed toward Kakashi at high speed. Facing the huge amount of placer gold, Kakashi had no good solution for a while. He could only rely on speed to dodge in a short period of time. But he soon realized a problem. Alyosha intentionally or unintentionally led the battlefield towards the outside of Sunagakure village. Kakashi didn't have any objections to this, and he didn't want to accidentally injure the civilians in Sunagakure village, so he simply dodged and rushed towards the outside of Sunagakure village. When Alyosha saw this scene, his face paused slightly, and then he no longer hesitated and followed Kakashi directly. As for the ninjas who followed him in Sand Hidden village, he ordered them to stay. Worried about Kakashi's safety, Shisu and Itachi also followed Kakashi and rushed out of the village. Anyway, their mission this time is to make Sunagakure village realize the power of Konoha. If I defeat Feng Ying directly, I should have completed the mission. Such words suddenly appeared in Zishu's mind. Kakashi and Rasa were both very fast, and after a while they stopped on a piece of air not far from the village. Without any words, the two people who had just arrived started a fierce battle. Alyosha waved his hands, and a large amount of placer gold came out of the ground the next moment. Golden burial. A slightly hoarse voice came from Alyosha's mouth, and the next moment, a large amount of placer gold poured towards Kakashi one after another like a wave. Facing this move, Kakashi's expression changed. Facing the sky full of placer gold, even he would have a hard time getting out if he was submerged in it. Call out. The next moment, the short blade in his hand turned into a silver light and flew into the air, finally landing in an open space in the distance. Then the sky-wide dust gold fell on Kakashi, but his figure was submerged in an instant. It's another one of his tricks. At this time, Alyosha frowned slightly, looking at the short blade nailed to the ground. He seemed to have seen something. Suddenly, the ground behind him rolled, and then Kakashi's figure emerged from the ground, holding the familiar white short blade in his right hand. Boom. At this time, the short blade that was stuck on the ground turned into a kunai with a bang. Thunder slash. A low shout came from Kakashi's mouth. Dazzling thunder flashed on the blade, and the trembling sound of thunder and lightning was endless. At this moment, Kakashi was like a man and a sword. A thunderbolt sword shot out and struck Alyosha's back heavily. Alyosha, who had noticed the abnormality, instantly controlled a ball of sand gold to block it behind him, but the ball of sand gold disintegrated like earth just the moment it came into contact with the light of the lightning sword. The next moment, the sword light fell directly on Alyosha's shoulder. At this time, a stern look appeared on Alyosha's face, and he suppressed the pain from his shoulder. He waved one hand, and a ball of sand gold wrapped around Kakashi's ankle. Kakashi also didn't pay attention to the gold dust that appeared on his ankle. He held the knife in both hands, and a violent force burst out instantly. This time, I must break your defense. Chapter 118 Puppet Master, Substitute Mother-in-Law. A location not far from the border of the Kingdom of Wind. The terrain here is remote and looks very desolate. Underground. This place seems to have been built into an underground laboratory. A man with fair skin and a little red cinnabar on his forehead was lying quietly on an operating table. Lord Orochimaru, can you really heal me? Kimimaro asked in his heart. Then a cold figure walked over, with narrow eyes and pale golden pupils. The person who came was none other than Orochimaru. This is the stronghold he established, and the place where the future Sound Ninja village will be established. At this time, he was holding a needle-like thing in his hand, and then he drew a tube of blood from Kimimaro's body. "Okay, Kimimaro is here today, you can go out and walk around," Orochimaru said calmly. After saying that, he turned and walked to another room, where a transparent container contained half a bottle of bright red blood. A touch of excitement appeared in Orochimaru's eyes, and then he poured the blood that had just been extracted from Kimimaro's body into the bottle. The blood slowly fused together, and then Orochimaru took out various tools to check the bottle of blood. At the same time, the excitement in his eyes became more and more intense. Next to the bottle of blood, there were two small bottles. A hint of scarlet appeared in the bottles filled with green liquid. At this moment, a wave of energy appeared on Orochimaru's body, his face changed slightly, and a cold color appeared in Orochimaru's sight. What? A troublesome guy, he thought to himself, and then with a wave of his hand, he put all the things on the table into the scroll. Then he turned around and left here, outside Sand Hidden Village. At this time, Alyosha was covering her left shoulder with her right hand, looking ahead with disbelief in her eyes. There was a handsome figure there. It was Kakashi. I saw a black spell on the ground under his feet. It was the Flying Thunder God spell, which he had left behind before he dived underground. Just now, after he used thunder to break through Kaluosha's defense, he directly tore most of the opponent's shoulder and even just missed his entire arm. However, Alyosha's sand gold had almost submerged his entire body at that time, and he had no choice but to use the Flying Thunder God technique again to escape. Now Kakashi truly realizes the power of his teacher. He only used Flying Thunder God twice, and nearly 1/3 of the chakra in his body was consumed, and this was despite sealing the Sharingan. If the seal of the four symbols is unlocked, Kakashi has no doubt that he will only be able to use the Flying Thunder God technique twice at most. Looking at Rata in front of him, Kakashi did not relax his vigilance because the opponent was injured. He knew that for a battle between shadow level experts, the battle would not be truly over until the last moment. Then he flashed, and with his whole body surrounded by blue lightning, he once again transformed into a thunder shadow and attacked Alyosha. At this time, Rasa's left arm was injured, which seriously affected his control of Placer Gold, so for a while he could only keep retreating, while constantly summoning Placer Gold to attack Kakashi in order to block his continuous progress. As expected of the Yondaime-samas, I'm afraid Kakashi's strength has reached cage level. Watching the battle from the sidelines, Shisu let out a sigh. Just then Itachi's eyes fell on him, and his eyes seemed to say, "As if you are not cage level, disciple." Shisu shook his head slightly at this. Although his strength has grown rapidly in recent years, due to the lack of his real left eye, his strength is still somewhat insufficient compared to Kakashi and Naraku. Even if it barely reaches the shadow level, it is still the weakest shadow level, but it's coming soon, Zishu said secretly in his heart, and he reached out and touched his left eye. At this moment, Itachi suddenly turned his head and looked in the other direction, where a figure was approaching at great speed. Scholar eyes opened instantly, and an old figure appeared in Itachi's sight, looking like an old woman. I didn't expect that she would even come. Zisu's eyes gradually became serious, and he recognized this person's identity. Chiyo's mother-in-law is currently the consultant of Tsunagakure village. In that case, let's do it one by one, Zisu murmured. Itachi, please protect yourself, Shisu told Itachi, and left here in a flash. The next moment, his figure appeared in front of Granny Chiyo. Konoha's ninja. A flash of anger flashed in Chiyo's eyes as he was blocked, and then he threw a kunai directly call out. She didn't have a good impression of the ninjas of Konoha at all, because her son and daughter-in-law died in the hands of the ninjas of Konoha. And she came here today because someone told her the news that Kakashi came to Tsunagakure. As for the person who delivered the news, it was naturally sent by Alyosha. Granny Chiyo is a powerful puppet master, but unfortunately she has retreated to the background due to family reasons. It would have been okay before, but now Rata doesn't want to waste such a top-notch combat power in vain, so he wants to use Kakashi to arouse Chiyo's hatred in exchange for the opponent's fighting spirit. Now it seems he is halfway successful. Chiyo still hates Konoha's ninjas very much, especially Hatake Kakashi. Ding. Shisu drew out the tachi from his back and easily blocked Chiyo's kunai attack, but the next moment Shisu felt an extra energy on his arm. The 3 Megatama Sharingan opened instantly, and several small chakra lines appeared in his sight. Without any hesitation, Shisu quickly waved the tachi in his hand and directly cut off these few chakra lines. Then Zisu raised his head and looked at Granny Chiyo in front of him. There was a hint of solemnity in his scarlet eyes. She was someone who had experienced 2 ninja wars. Facing her, Zisu did not dare to be careless at all. HMPH, you brat of the Uchiha clan. Chiyo snorted coldly after seeing those scarlet eyes, and then she patted the scroll on her body. Boom. A burst of white mist appeared, and then 2 humanoid puppets stood in front of her. The positions of his hands were replaced by sharp blades, and various sharp weapons were installed everywhere on his body. A puppet master can condense chakra into threads to control puppets to launch attacks. A powerful puppet master can even directly control the body of a living person. Aha. Then, under the control of Granny Chiyo, the 2 puppets launched an attack on Shisu at the same time. Although Shisu looked very young, she did not have any contempt for him, and her wrinkled face had a pair of eyes that exuded coldness. Ding, the sounds of weapons clashing came as Zisu fought with 2 puppets. Chapter 119 The Traces of Orochimaru. In the sand-hidden village, Naraku walked on the streets of Sunagakure village. Because Kakashi and the others attracted firepower, Naraku sneaked in easily. People are coming and going on the streets. As one of the 5 major countries, the country of wind, although Sunagakure village is not rich due to the yellow sand environment here, it also depends on who it is compared with. Compared with some small countries, Sunagakure village is relatively lucky, but the living environment is not very good. But for some reason, Naraku had an ominous premonition after entering Sand-Hidden Village. He felt that there must be some secret in Sand-Hidden Village. This can also be seen from Eluosha's attitude towards them. Naraku didn't believe that Rasa didn't know why Kumogakure would ally with Konoha again. But even so, Eluosha still dared to attack some of them. Did he think that Sunagakure was stronger than Union? Let me see what Sunagakure's purpose is. Naraku murmured in his heart, and then Kagura's inner eye opened, and almost instantly he noticed several figures following him. Swish. The next moment, Naraku's figure disappeared from the spot and ran wildly not far away. Chase. The 2 masked figures hiding in the dark looked at each other, then they flashed and chased in Naraku's direction. However, they may not have noticed that there was a smile on Naraku's lips at this time. A moment later, a dark corner. Boom. The 2 figures fell to the ground. Naraku closed his eyes, and his scarlet eyes disappeared. Mystery Man. Sunagakure village, you are trying to cause trouble. Naraku secretly thought to himself that just now he learned from the 2 Anbu personnel that a mysterious man appeared in Sunagakure village just a few days ago. However, they were just ordinary Anbu members and didn't know much information. They just felt that, since the mysterious man appeared, their Kazekage-sama seemed to be in a much better mood. It Beiju. Naraku mentally guessed the identity of the mysterious man. Since he defeated Obito last time, he felt that Obito and the others would definitely do something secretly and would never let him grow up like this otherwise. How could the Kingdom of Earth and the Kingdom of Wind suddenly learn that there were 2 Kyuubi in Konoha? According to the memories of these 2 people, Naraku quickly sneaked into a place and looked at a house that was slightly more luxurious than the surrounding buildings. This was the home of the 4th Kazekage. Although the 2 Anbu did not know the location of the mysterious man in Sunagakure village, Naraku guessed that he should appear here because the one-tailed Jinchuriki and Gaara were here. Even though Naraku had not entered the house yet, he had already sensed several fluctuations of chakra after opening Kagura's mind. Naraku knew that these people were sent by the 4th Kazekage to protect him. Children, kindness isn't it here. Naraku murmured that he did not feel the breath of the tailed beast in at. You must know that his Kagura heart eye's perception is so powerful that he can clearly sense even the 9 tails that uses the Bagua seal, let alone the 1 tail that uses the incomplete sealing technique. If Konoha's sealing technique of sealing tailed beasts is the most powerful among the 5 major countries, then Sunagakure is the weakest. Naraku remembered that Gaara in the original book basically never slept when he was young. Once he fell asleep, Ichibi would take the opportunity to snatch his body and then run away. This is also the reason why Alyosha suppressed Bayo's Aoyori several times. Even though Ichiba's aura was not detected inside, Naraku still sneaked in, wanting to see if he could find any clues. As for the guards hiding in the dark, their every move was within the range of Naraku's perception, so they did not notice Naraku sneaking in for a while. This is in a room. Naraku frowned. He felt 3 auras in this room. One breath was similar to the 9 tails and 2 tails, and Naraku knew that it should be the energy released by the first tails unintentionally. As for the other 2 breaths, Naraku felt a little familiar. Is it you again, Uncle Master? Naraku murmured, and then left here in a flash. In the 2 breaths in the room, he sensed the shadow of Orochimaru inside. This discovery made him feel very strange. In his guess, Orochimaru should be studying how to cure Kimimura's blood disease, so how could he go to Sunagakure village to contact Ichibi? The art of multiple shadow clones. Boom. 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 In a hidden corner of Sand Hidden Village, Naraku formed a seal with his hands. After a low shout, a dozen figures appeared on the field instantly. The next moment, these figures dispersed and searched around. Since you're here, I still want to meet you, Uncle. Naraku murmured. Then he joined the team of shadow clones in a flash and began to search for traces of Orochimaru in Sunagakure village. Maybe doing this would make people in Sand Hidden Village notice, but Naraku didn't care that much. At this stage, Sunagakure village had no opponents worthy of his attention except for the 4th Kazekage and Granny Chiyo. Soon, under the simultaneous search of more than a dozen shadow clones, Naraku found a trace. Without any hesitation, Naraku's body turned and rushed towards the back of Sunagakure village. According to the message from the shadow clone, traces of Gaara, a Jinchuriki, were found there. While hurried on, Naraku stretched out his hand to form a mark, dispelling the shadow clone technique. After a while, a young figure appeared in Naraku's sight. With short red hair and the word love engraved on his forehead. This man is Gaara, a one-tailed Jinchuriki who is about the same age as Naruto. But at this time, his face was pale, and he looked extremely weak, as if something had been extracted. Sensing Naraku's arrival, Gaara just raised his head and glanced lightly, but there was a bit of piercing coolness in his slightly childish eyes. Looking at Gaara like this, Naraku frowned. This scene made him feel a little familiar, just like Naruto did after the Nine Tails chakra was extracted. Could it be? Naraku's expression changed, and the next moment he appeared in front of Gaara, reaching out to grab him directly. Wow. At this moment, a ball of yellow sand suddenly sprang out from the ground and rushed towards Naraku at high speed. In response, Naraku just waved his arm, and the wind attributed chakra instantly surged out, blowing away the yellow sand. When Gaara is in danger, the yellow sand that automatically appears to protect him is the power of his mother Gaara. Although this power is admirable and touching, it is obvious that this power is not enough to cause harm to Naraku. That's true. Looking at the pinprick on Gaara's belly, Naraku murmured. The next moment, he suddenly raised his head and looked forward. Chapter 120 Cut off Alyosha's arm. Hiss. A grey python appeared in Naraku's sight, and a red letter spit out from the python's mouth. As expected, it's you, Uncle. Call out. Naraku murmured softly, then raised his right hand slightly, and blue arcs of electricity flashed between his fingers. The next moment, these arcs turned into thunder arrows, and rushed forward. Boom. The lightning arrows were so fast, that the grey python turned into a white mist, and dissipated before it could even react. However, Naraku frowned slightly at this time. The grey python was obviously Orochimaru's psychic beast, but Orochimaru did not appear here. Naraku's eyes were slightly closed, Kaguya's inner eye's perception ability was maximized, and a special aura appeared within the range of perception. This is? Naraku murmured in his mouth, and then left the place in a flash. Only Gaara stayed where he was, with eyes so cold that he didn't know what he was thinking. Outside Sand Hidden Village, ha. Alyosha was breathing heavily. At this time, there were many wounds on his body, and his broken left arm was hanging down. Opposite him, Kakashi's condition seemed to be slightly better than him, but judging from the rising and falling chest, he was not relaxed now. The battle between the two is almost over here. If it continues, it will be a life and death battle. Konoha. At this time, Alyosha's eyes were full of dissatisfaction. He never thought that he would be defeated by a young man under the age of 20. This made him feel humiliated and at the same time deeply jealous. Konoha, why do Konoha have so many geniuses? Alyosha roared in his heart. Call out. At this moment, a flash of silver flashed before his eyes. A silver white short blade. Alyosha's pupils trembled slightly, and without any hesitation, he raised his right arm slightly, and a ball of golden placer gold sprang out from the ground. Compared with the beginning, both the speed and the condensation speed of placer gold have slowed down a lot. This is because the chakra consumption in Alyosha's body at this time is too much. The placer gold blocked the front of the silver blade, but Alyosha still did not dare to relax at all. With his feet on the ground, he kept retreating. He knew that Kakashi's offensive in front of him was definitely not that simple. ZHI. The fact was just as he expected. The short blade traveling at high speed was suddenly wrapped in a blue arc. With the blessing of thunder and lightning, the short blade directly penetrated the placer gold and came directly in front of Alyosha. Not good, Alyosha said secretly in her heart when she saw this, and used her feet to turn around and run to the side point, but he was still a step too late. A silver figure had already arrived in front of him. It was Kakashi. At this time, he held the short blade in his hand and slashed forward. Stab it. A flash of silver light flashed, and the next moment, a stream of fresh blood splashed in the air, and then an arm fell to the ground. It was the arm of the fourth Kazekage Rasa. Well, Alyosha, who had her arm cut off, bit her head, and endured the severe pain. She couldn't even take care of the broken arm and quickly backed away. At this time, the chakra in his body has been almost completely exhausted, and even the sand gold armor attached to the surface of his body can no longer be maintained. Otherwise, he could definitely block Kakashi's move just now. Konoha, one day I will destroy it, Ratsu murmured viciously in his heart, and then he mobilized all the remaining chakra in his body to summon sand gold to drown his body, and then there was no one on the field. His figure appeared. Haha. Just after Ratsu left, Kakashi sat directly on the ground regardless of his appearance, breathing heavily. In this battle, there is no doubt that minor injuries were replaced by serious injuries, and Kakashi won. Although he defeated the fourth Kazekage Rasa, Kakashi was not complacent because of this. He knew very well that the reason why he was able to defeat Rasa was just to catch the opponent by surprise with the Flying Thunder God. But Kakashi is confident. If you give him some time, he can still defeat the opponent even without relying on the Flying Thunder God. Swish. At this moment, a figure stood next to Kakashi. It was Itachi. Sure enough, that guy Naraku sneaked away again. Kakashi looked around and said helplessly after not seeing Naraku's figure. Itachi nodded slightly but said nothing. Is it almost over with Shizu? After relaxing for a while, Kakashi stood up again and looked to the left. There is a huge green skeleton there, and Shizu is standing inside the skeleton at this time. Unlike the last time he used Susanoo to challenge the Two Tails, this time Shizu looked very relaxed. At this time, there were more than a dozen figures surrounding Green Susan. These figures were all puppets of Granny Chiyo. Known as Tsunagakure's #1 puppet master, she can control a dozen puppets at the same time to attack the enemy. But this time she seemed to have met her opponent. The sharp blades on the puppet were unable to cause even a trace of wounds after they struck the Green Susan. Instead, the blade in the puppet's hand kept breaking. At this time, a hint of shock appeared on Granny Chiyo's wrinkled face. She did not expect that her trick would be disintegrated in this way. It seems that I can only use that move, she murmured in her heart, and then a small scroll appeared in her hand, just as she was about to make a move. That's enough, Elder Chiyo. Now is not the time to deal with them. A slightly hoarse voice came from behind her. It was Alyosha, who had just escaped. Although he had recovered some strength at this time, his left arm was broken, and there was still a sharp pain that continued to flow into his nerves. Humph. Granny Chiyo snorted coldly. Her attitude towards Alyosha was not very friendly. However, she did not continue to take action, and took back all the puppets she had released. Shizu didn't stop him. After all, their mission to Tsunagakure was not to kill anyone, but mainly to shock. However, after Shizu saw Rata's empty left arm, he secretly gave Kakashi a thumbs up. You said you were here for a visit, but you chopped off Feng Ying's arm, as expected of you, Kakashi. The position of Anbu minister is beckoning to you. With this thought in his mind, Shisu's scarlet eyes returned to normal, and the green Susan also disappeared with him. After Chiyo recovered all the puppets, Alyosha stretched out his remaining right arm and waved violently, and then a ball of placer gold wrapped their bodies, and disappeared in the next moment. Aha, aha. Just after they left, Kakashi and Itachi also came here. At this moment, Shisu's expression suddenly changed, and he felt a familiar aura. Chapter 121 Go find my cousin. Outside Sand Hidden Village. What's wrong, Shisu? Kakashi's slightly questioning tone reached Shisu's ears. At this moment, there was a trace of hesitation in Shisu's eyes, and then he shook his head and said, "It's okay, let's go find Naraku first, and then negotiate with Tsunagakure, before we complete the mission." Kindness. Kakashi nodded lightly. But at this time, Itachi looked at Shisu with suspicion, his eyes trembling slightly, as if he had guessed something. Behind Sand Hidden Village Point in the sky full of yellow sand, a figure covered in black robes was running at great speed. Point swish. But at this moment, a red-haired figure flashed past, and Naraku appeared and blocked the person. It's not Orochimaru. Looking at the man in black robe in front of him, Naoya screamed in surprise. Just when he was about to say something, a cold breath suddenly appeared behind him. Without any hesitation, Naraku exerted force on his legs, turned around and dodged in the direction to the left. Point hiss, hiss. Then he turned around and saw a dozen venomous snakes spitting out poisonous snakes with their mouths wide open. This is how uncle greets his nephew. Naraku looked up at the familiar figure in front of him, and a slightly complaining tone came out of his mouth. Orochimaru sneered, and his pale golden pupils fell on Naraku, showing a hint of exploration. But then he shook his head slightly. He knew that Naraku's current strength was not weaker than him at all, and he also knew about the defeat of the fourth Raikage. Orochimaru suppressed his inner thoughts, and then formed a mark with one hand. Then a scene that surprised Naraku appeared. He saw a coffin rising under the feet of the black-robed man. Then the coffin lid opened automatically, and the black-robed man walked in. Reincarnation from the dirty soil. Naraku murmured in his mouth. He didn't expect Orochimaru to have mastered this forbidden technique now. A trace of fear flashed in Naraku's eyes. Perhaps because of the arrival of his butterfly, Orochimaru today is a little different from the original one. "Let me see what secrets you have, uncle," Naraku whispered in his heart, and the next moment, a violent energy burst out of him, and 6 chains emitting rich golden light stretched out from his back. Point chains as thick as an adult's arm were like golden pythons, controlling their flexible body, to attack Orochimaru from all directions. This time Naraku was going to solve Orochimaru's problem at once. Another point was that he was also curious about what information the other party got behind the Iron Gate in Kirigakure village last time. Looking at the chains coming towards him from all directions, Orochimaru's eyes flashed with solemnity. Today's diamond chains can no longer be broken by him at will like they were in the past. Point aha, aha. Orochimaru used a snake-like movement to avoid the chain's attack. Although his figure is very flexible, there is still a long way to go compared to the fourth Raikage. Naraku quickly seized the opportunity. Just when Orochimaru jumped into the air, a golden chain had already come behind him and would wrap around him the next moment. Snake limbs hardened. Orochimaru, who noticed something unusual behind him, let out a low shout, and then his arm suddenly turned pale. Point clang. A sound like the collision of steel came, and the golden chain was instantly bounced away. Then Orochimaru seized the opportunity and flashed at high speed, avoiding the attack of the other chains. Psychic art. After quickly forming seals with his hands, Orochimaru let out a low shout and then slapped his palm on the ground. Boom. A huge white mist appeared. When the smoke cleared, a huge python with purple stripes on its body and 2 legs appeared in Naraku's sight. Even 10,000 snakes were summoned. "Uncle Master, you really think highly of me," Naraku whispered in his mouth. He raised his head and looked at Orochimaru, who was standing on top of the snakes, and Naraku also began to form seals. Then he made the same move as Orochimaru, and Naraku, who was pressing the ground with one hand, shouted, "Psychic art." Boom. A cloud of white mist appeared in front of Naraku. "What? Naraku, what do you want from me?" Toadyan laughed. slowly opening his sleepy eyes. But the next moment he was completely sleepless. 10,000 snakes. At this time, Toadyan's face was extremely ugly, and the next moment he said directly, "Go find my cousin, this guy is an old friend with him." After saying that, Toadyan was about to leave here, but Naraku didn't give him this chance. He just moved and rushed towards Wanshi. "It's time to show off, Toadyan." After saying this, Naraku stopped paying attention to him. At this time, he jumped up and quickly formed seals with his hands. Wind escape, a big breakthrough. Naraku opened his mouth and spit out a violent gust of wind. The strong wind tore through the air and rushed straight towards Orochimaru, who was standing on the head of all snakes. In response, Wanshi took Orochimaru and dodged Naraku's attack in a flash. "Orochimaru, you asked me to show up just to deal with this kid." A heavy voice sounded. Wanshi had some disdain in her mouth, especially when her eyes fell on Toadyan. Compared to his huge size, Toadyan looked like an ant on the ground. You'd better not underestimate him," Orochimaru reminded with a smile. "Humph. Don't forget to remember the sacrifice." Wanshi snorted, and his huge body rushed directly towards Naraku. As for the toad inflammation, he simply ignored it. Boom. At this moment, a loud noise came, and Wanshi's forward body stopped, and a pulling force came from Wanshi's tail. Hiss. Wanshi roared, and looked back with a cold aura in his eyes. The next moment his eyes were slightly shaken. He saw a huge toad with a fiery red body, no weaker than him, appeared and stood behind him. The pair of huge toad palms were holding his tail. "This is?" A glint flashed in Orochimaru's eyes, and he flashed before he had time to think. "I saw a red figure appearing where he was standing just now." It was Naraku. Without any hesitation, holding a silver sword in his hand, he attacked Orochimaru again. As for Wanshi, let Toadyan deal with it. Naraku still believed in Toadyan's strength. Once, Bunte said that Bunte had been defeated by his cousin. Also, the reason why Naraku summoned Toadyan this time was because he wanted to see his true strength. After knowing Toadyan for so many years, he has never fought side by side with him. Chapter 120. Teheri-zen is about to change his plan. Boom. A violent shaking sound came from the back of Sand Hidden Village, and two giant beasts, one red and one purple, were seen colliding together. The air was instantly shaken and fluctuated like a tide. "Asshole. Wanshi, don't you know I'm catching up on my sleep?" At this moment, a roar came, and Toadyan roared at Wanshi with an angry look on his face. But his voice was completely different from before. "Go to hell, you." Toadyan cursed loudly, then opened his mouth suddenly, and a red flame could be seen emerging from his huge mouth. The next second, red flames spurted out of his mouth like a fountain. A large amount of flames fell directly on Wanshi's body, and Wanshi's reaction was also very fast. As soon as the snake stretched its head, it was ready to move its body to avoid the attack of the flames, but the next moment, a look of pain appeared on Wanshi's face. "Run, I told you to run." Toadyan was still cursing. At this time, he sat down on Wanshi's body and briefly controlled his figure. "You are looking for death. I will definitely eat you today," Wanshi shouted angrily. Regardless of the strong burning sensation coming from his body, the snake's head turned sharply and opened its mouth to bite Toadyan. Toadyan was not afraid of this at all. One toad and one snake started fighting in the sea of red fire. Naraku, who was fighting Orochimaru not far away, noticed Toadyan's bravery and the changes in his opponent's personality. "Does this guy have a dual personality?" Naraku thought to himself. Guy. Suddenly there was a sound of breaking through the air, and then a sharp sword blade appeared in front of Naraku. Clang. Naraku reacted very quickly. While using his feet to step back, he waved his right arm, and the long sword in his hand turned into a ray of silver light to block the blade attack. The sharp sword blade collided with the silver blade, but at the moment of contact, the long sword in Naraku's hand immediately broke into two halves. Sure enough, it's broken again. Naraku was a little helpless about this, but he also knew that there was nothing he could do about it. After all, the long sword in his hand was only made of slightly harder metal, and it was obviously incomparable to the Kusanagi sword in Orochimaru's hand. "It seems that we have to find a way to make a good weapon," Naraku thought in his heart. In fact, he had always had this idea after returning from Kirigakure, but it was delayed by Kumogakure's arrival and subsequent events. As for the materials for making weapons, he has already prepared them. Orochimaru. At this moment, a roar came from it. It was one snake. At this moment, a roar came from it. It was one snake this time. Many parts of his body were scorched black, and there was a faint smell of burning, making him look extremely embarrassed. Compared with him, Tojian's condition is much better. Now he is riding on Wan Chi and constantly greeting him with his frog paws. Don't forget your sacrifice. After Wan Chi said these words in a very lackluster manner, he dissipated into a huge burst of white mist with a bang. Pooh. What a spineless guy. Todan's eyes were full of disdain at this time, and then he said hello to Naraku, and returned to Myomu Mountain. Haha, it's really surprising that Myomu Mountain has such a strong toad. After seeing 10,000 snakes being defeated by Toad Flame, Orochimaru had a hint of surprise in his eyes according to the information he learned. Excluding those few people in Longdi Cave, Wan Chi was already the strongest psychic beast, and it was also the strongest psychic beast he could summon so far. Looking at Naraku in front of him, Orochimaru became even more curious about him. Sand Hidden Village. Inside the Kazekage building, Alyosha sat alone in the office with a heavy face, her eyes gloomy, and she didn't know what she was thinking. Just after he returned to Tsunagakure village with Granny Chiyo, the other party still rejected his invitation to come out again, and even gave him a warning, saying that Tsunagakure now needs peace and should not be involved in conflicts with other villages. Ratsa could only sneer at this. If Granny Chiyo was really thinking about Tsunagakure, why would she rush over as soon as she received the news that Kakashi appeared in Tsunagakure? Therefore, Alyosha was dismissive of Granny Chiyo's words, not to mention that he was the Kazekage now, and he had the final say in everything in the village. The results will prove that I'm right, and the village will definitely develop better and better under my leadership. Alyosha secretly thought in his heart. TSK, what's wrong? Our Lord Kazekage is injured. At this moment, a burst of laughter came, and then a figure shrouded in a giant pitcher plant emerged from the ground. Zetsu, you're here. The fourth Kazekage seemed to be very familiar with him. Not only was he not surprised by his arrival, he even called him by his name. Ratsa, you should have listened to me from the beginning, and befriended Konoha for the time being, otherwise you wouldn't have been hurt. Z spoke slowly, with a hint of reproach in his tone. It's hurt. Luo lowered his head and glanced at his empty left arm, then shook his head slightly. This is nothing. What I didn't expect was that not only Uzumaki Naraku, but also Hatake Kakashi has grown to this point, and even mastered that guy's ninjutsu. While speaking, Alyosha had an angry expression on his face. In fact, he was very confident in his own strength. The reason why his left arm was cut off by Kakashi accidentally was because he felt that it was mainly because Kakashi had mastered the Flying Thunder God technique. After hearing Alyosha's words, Ju's face gradually became heavy. The Flying Thunder God's technique cannot be compared with it in the entire ninja world, whether it is the blood inheritance limit or various secret techniques. Even if a genin masters the Flying Thunder God technique, he may cause harm to a shadow level powerhouse. The fourth Hokage relied on this move to become known as the Yellow Flash. At that time, a large part of the reason why he and Obito chose to attack Kushina after giving birth was to take advantage of Minato, who had the Flying Thunder God. They felt that if Minato was not dead, if he grew up in the future, it would definitely hinder their plans for a while. But they never thought that Minato was dead and now his disciple had learned the Flying Thunder God technique. For a moment, murderous intent arose in Ju's heart again, but it was quickly covered up by him. Today's Konoha has Tsunade, Jiraiya, Naraku, and Kakashi, the four great shadow level powerhouses, as well as Ina, who possesses the Kyuubi. The power they currently control is not enough to destroy them all, so they definitely think that now is not a good time to take action. It seems that the plan must be changed. Ju thought secretly in his heart. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 123, Ju's Gift to Alyosha. The growth of Naraku, Uzumaki, Kakashi and others made Black Zetsu feel the pressure. If they continue to develop according to the previous plan, then when the plan is actually implemented, they will inevitably be on the opposite side of Konoha to gather the tailed beasts, especially Uzumaki Naraku. The 9 tails that was split in half was on the 2 closest people to him. Black Zetsu didn't think that Naraku would obediently hand over Kushina and Naruto to them. Damn. It turns out that the rear end of the crane is still unreliable, Heiju thought to himself. Since Obito's defeat to Naraku last time, his opinion of Obito has become more and more serious, but he doesn't dare to show it, at least not now. Many things he wants to plan still require Obito to come forward. To do it, Uzumaki, Naraku and Hatake Kakashi must find a way to deal with them as soon as possible. For a time, many thoughts flashed through Heiju's mind, but he rejected them one by one. Although they are reluctant to admit it, Naraku and Kakashi, who were able to defeat the 4th Raikage and the 4th Kazekage, are already ahead of many people in today's ninja world. Therefore, Heiju could not think of anyone who could deal with these 2 people in a short period of time. Does he need to come forward now? Heiju murmured in his heart. While Black Zetsu was thinking about this, White Zetsu in reality had already discussed with the 4th Kazekage how to deal with Kakashi and the others. In fact, it is said that they have been discussed, but there is no substantive method. It is just the same old thing, surrender to Konoha, and then sign an alliance treaty with it, etc. Alyosha is very familiar with this series of processes. Master Kazekage, this is a gift for you. I believe it can make your strength even further, Ju said with a smile. Then he took out a scroll from his body and handed it to Alyosha, then dived underground and left here. Gift. Alyosha frowned slightly and looked at the scroll in his hand. He was very aware of his current situation. Although he didn't want to admit it, his left arm was broken and his chakra meridians were damaged. His strength would only slowly decline. What's more, he would not be able to admit it. So realistic. Boom. A burst of white smoke appeared, and then a look of shock appeared on Alyosha's face. At this time, it could be clearly seen that a grey-white arm appeared on his hand, and Alyosha felt strong vitality in this arm. The arm is naturally White Zetsu's arm. For Zetsu, who has White Zetsu's army, this arm is nothing at all. And Beiju's arm is not that easy to use. He has done some tricks on it. Once Alyosha installs this arm, the opponent will slowly be controlled by him. As for whether Alyosha can use this arm, the answer is yes, he will definitely do it. The 4th Kazekage Rasa may not be a qualified father to Gaara, but to the villagers of Sunagakure village, he is definitely a qualified leader. As a leader, Alyosha has great ambitions. He has always had a wish in his heart, which is to develop the Kingdom of Wind into a rich country like the Kingdom of Fire, but due to its environmental limitations, this idea is difficult to realize. That's why he wants to start a war and occupy the territory of the Country of Fire. What does it take to achieve all this? Strength. Rasa needs strong power. He needs the power to suppress everything like the god of ninja. Inside Kazekage's office, as expected, after feeling the strong vitality on his arm, Alyosha directly placed the arm on his left shoulder without any hesitation. The golden sandy gold slowly condensed, connecting the arm to his shoulder. Rasa, who has not mastered medical ninjutsu, can only use this method. At this time, he could clearly feel that this arm was slowly merging with his flesh and blood. Although the process was a bit slow, Alyosha knew that it was only a matter of time before he fully mastered this arm. Gold sand clone. Alyosha made a seal with one hand and shouted lowly, and then a ball of golden gold suddenly appeared on the field, and then the gold turned into his appearance. This is his self-created clone technique, which is much stronger than ordinary clones in terms of durability and strength. After leaving behind this clone, Alyosha's body left here. Perhaps because the arms have not been completely fused, the left shoulder of the golden sand clone is still empty, behind Sand Hidden Village. At this time, the battle between Naraku and Orochimaru was coming to an end, but it was not that the two of them decided the winner, but that they did not want to fight anymore. Orochimaru feels that Naraku is getting stronger and stronger. Now he can only defeat the opponent unless he uses all his trump cards. But obviously this is not the result Orochimaru wants. Naraku has the same idea, and his main Jiki Sharingan is already overloaded. If Orochimaru is really to be left here, his eyes will definitely be destroyed. What's more, Naraku also knew Orochimaru's methods. Even if he completely killed him here today, he might be resurrected one day. Naraku is convinced of this. Haha, Uzumaki Naraku, one day I will understand the truth of this world. Orochimaru sneered, and then left here in a flash. The truth. Uncle Master, I want to find out too. Looking at Orochimaru's leaving figure, Naraku murmured in his mouth, we will meet again soon. Then, he turned around and left here, preparing to return to Sunagakure village to meet Kakashi and the others. One day later, inside the reception room of Sunagakure village, it's just a clone. Is Sunagakure village looking down on Konoha? Naraku said in a cold tone, looking at Ilyusha sitting opposite point with his perception ability. He could directly see that this was just a clone. Haha, I'm looking down on you. Who is looking down on whom? You are just a few jounin. According to the rules, the alliance treaty can only be signed if the shadows of the two villages come forward together. I've given you a lot of face now. Before Ilyusha could speak, an old man sitting next to him spoke first, with a trace of complaint in his tone. Naraku naturally wouldn't buy what he said. From his point of view, this alliance treaty was dispensable. It was just Sunagakure. He had never taken it to heart. Sunagakure village, which has only one shadow level strongman, is undoubtedly the weakest among the 5 great ninja villages, and now this shadow level strongman has his arm cut off again. Naraku felt that, if other countries learned of this news, they might make some small moves. But this has nothing to do with Naraku. The day after signing the alliance treaty, he left Sunagakure village with Kakashi and the others. Chapter 124 The mission that failed inexplicably. The best container. The border of the Kingdom of Wind. Is this where Orochimaru will establish the Sound Ninja village in the future? Naraku looked at the very desolate place in front of him and murmured point. After leaving Sunagakure village with Kakashi and the others, he parted ways with Kakashi and the others. Be careful Shizu, there may be Orochimaru's base further ahead. Naraku turned to the figure beside him and said, it is good. Shizu nodded lightly. In fact, Naraku originally planned to act alone, but Kakashi, as the captain, disagreed, and Shizu told him something, so he decided to take Shizu with him. Orochimaru, you really have a lot of secrets. Naraku thought to himself, and then continued to rush forward with Zisu. Konoha village, the home of the Hyuga clan, patriarch. A young looking man knelt down on one knee and lowered his head in shame. If you look carefully, you will find that this person's pupils are pale. Hyuga Rain, a member of the Hyuga branch, a ninja who had just become a genin. Don't feel guilty for such a trivial matter. Temporary success or failure doesn't mean anything. As long as you train hard, I believe you can show the glory of my Hyuga clan. As the clan leader, Rizu stretched out his hand to help Rizangayu up and did not blame him for his failure in the mission 2 days ago. Your body is still very weak. You should take a good rest for a few days. Rizu said slowly while looking at Rizangayu's pale face. Yes, Mr. Patriarch. Then Hinata bent down and retreated. Hinata Rain was not happy because of Rizu's relief. As a member of the Hyuga clan, even if it was just a separation, he was extremely proud in his heart. What's more, he was the first person in this generation to turn on his Byakugan. The proud Hinata ran to train. The first thing he did when he returned home, but he soon felt something was wrong. At this time, he had only trained for an hour, and he was already sweating profusely. You must know that he could last a whole morning with the same level of training. What's going on? Rizangayu asked in his heart. Hokage's office. Tsunade looked down at the scroll in her hand. Standing in front of her was a middle-aged man with short black hair and 2 black marks on his face. Inozuka-ran, a member of the Konoha Inozuka clan. Their sense of smell and hearing are much stronger than ordinary people, and this clan likes to raise ninja dogs very much. Inozuka-ran is currently a jounin of Konoha and is the leading teacher. The mission failed. Isn't this mission a SEAL level escort mission? Tsunade asked a little strangely, and then she looked up at Inozuka-ran. At this time, Inozuka-ran had a wry smile on his face. Although he couldn't figure it out, He still described the process to Tsunade Point as a jounin. Inuzuka and accepted the Sea Level Escort mission, just to train the 3 students under him who had just become Genin Point originally. The mission went very smoothly at the beginning. Although there was a little accident in the middle, it was no big deal with him as a Jonin in charge point. But just when they were about to complete their mission, an accident happened. Point at that time, a powerful masked ninja appeared. After that person appeared, he directly kidnapped one of his students. Naturally, Inuzuka Yasu would not sit still and wait for death. Without saying a word, he chased after him. Later, he successfully rescued the student, but when he came back, he found that the remaining 2 students had fainted on the ground, and the goods were missing. This made Inuzuka very surprised, because the goods they escorted were just some slightly more expensive fabrics. Although they were worth a little money, they were far from enough to hire a Jonin to do it. But the masked man who kidnapped his student, Inuzuka Yasu briefly fought with him for a few rounds, and he could conclude that he was a Jounin. Because he was so surprised, he reported the mission to Tsunade alone. After listening to his report, Tsunade was silent for a long time and then said, "I will send someone to investigate this matter. Your team will not leave the village for the time being." "Yes, Hokage-sama." Then Inuzuka left here. Yamazaki River, Zankienkian, Hinata Rain. Looking at the 3 names recorded on the scroll, Tsunade fell into deep thought. In the dark and humid underground, looking at the blood that had been completely fused together in the bottle on the table, Orochimaru had a cold smile on his lips. "Is that really the case, Master Orochimaru?" At this moment, a respectful voice came. It was Kimimaro with white hair and handsome appearance. "It's Kimimaro, you're back." Orochimaru's slightly delighted voice came out. "Did you succeed?" Seeing Orochimaru's appearance, Kimimaro couldn't help but ask. But the next moment he felt that he had said the wrong thing. Immediately he knelt down on one knee and lowered his head, as if the king's men had done something wrong. In fact, in Kimimaro's heart, Orochimaru is like a god. He is willing to do anything for him, even if it means giving his life. Orochimaru didn't pay attention to Kimimaro, who said the wrong thing, and turned to look at him kneeling on the ground. Orochimaru's eyes were filled with brilliance, as if he was looking at a finely crafted decoration. "Drink it and your blood disease will be relieved a lot," he said, handing the bottle full of blood to Kimimaro on the table. Yes, Kimimaro didn't hesitate at all, put the bottle to his mouth, and drank it all in one gulp. After following Orochimaru here, the other party would often inject some special liquid into his body, and sometimes, like now, he would take it directly. By the way, how's Jugo doing lately? At this moment, Orochimaru seemed to have thought of something, and asked Point Gum. After swallowing the last drop of blood in the bottle, Kimimaro said, "His mood has become much more stable, but because he can't control the energy, he still often goes berserk." Kimimaro said with a flash of distress in his eyes. In fact, Jugo was a child that Orochimaru took in before him, but because of his frequent rampages, Orochimaru kept him in a secluded place. Although Kimimaro has only known him for a short time, he has already developed a deep bond with him. He is the only one who can comfort him every time Jugo goes berserk. That's it. If it weren't for the fact that the other person was often delirious, maybe he would be the best container. Chapter 125, Orochimaru's Fear. In the ninja world, there are all kinds of energy, chakra with 5 attributes: wind, fire, thunder, earth, and water, as well as various blood inheritance limits, and yin and yang attributes. For example, the Sharingan possessed by the Uchiha clan is a yin-type energy, while the special physique of the Uzumaki clan is a yang-type energy. In addition to these, there is also a powerful attribute called natural energy. Ninjutsu used after mastering natural energy will become Senjutsu. There are 3 major holy places in the ninja world: the Toad Clan, Myomu Mountain, the Snake Clan, Raichi Cave, and the Slug Clan's Shigi Bone Forest. Immortal magic is spread from these 3 holy places. Senjutsu is such a coveted power. Thinking of Jugo, Orochimaru thought of Senjutsu. The reason why he calls me the most perfect container is because the other person is born with the ability to sense natural energy, and his body will consciously absorb it. Maybe now he will go berserk because he can't control that energy, but Orochimaru knows that one day Jugo will control this power, and by then he will even be able to remain in sage mode at all times. This makes Orochimaru, who has never been able to sense natural energy, feel very envious. If it weren't for the fact that Jugo was mentally abnormal and seemed to have a split personality, Orochimaru might have used him as a container to cultivate. There was a trace of regret in his eyes, but he was relieved when Orochimaru's eyes fell on Kimimaro. After all, if he cures Kimimaro's blood disease and then adds the blood of that clan, even the normal Jugo will not be able to compare with him. Orochimaru stuck out his tongue and licked his lips with uncontrollable excitement in his eyes. Boom. At this moment, a loud noise suddenly came from the top of Orochimaru's head. Without any hesitation, Orochimaru kicked his feet on the ground and retreated quickly. Similarly, Kimimaro's reaction was also very fast, and he jumped back. Boom. Boulders fell from above. Orochimaru looked up, a hint of shock flashing through his pale golden pupils. Uzumaki Naraku, I didn't expect you to even find this place. A trace of anger flashed in Orochimaru's eyes, and then he raised his right arm and swung it violently. In an instant, more than a dozen venomous snakes with their mouths opened rushed upward. Hiss, hiss, hiss. There was a harsh sound of spitting out a message. Uncle, Master, you've been a little angry lately. Why do you always get into action when you don't agree with me? Naraku's sneer sounded. Guy. The next moment, a blade wrapped with red flames appeared. The blade tore through the air and struck hard at the dozen venomous snakes. Boom. The next moment, all the poisonous snakes that were attacked turned into a burst of white mist and disappeared. Then two figures jumped down from above and stood in front of Orochimaru. It was Naraku and Shisu. Corpse bone veins, 10 fingers piercing bullets. At this moment, a low shout came from Kimimaro. At this moment, he stretched out his hands and pointed directly at the two Narakus in front. The next moment, the phalanges of his 10 fingers were shot forward like bullets. Boom. There was a constant sound of cracking in the air. Corpse bone veins. Naraku, who noticed the movement, murmured softly. He was no stranger to this move. He had fought a Jnin from the Kaguya clan before in Kirigakure village. The opponent also used this move at that time, but it didn't look as powerful as Kimimaro's move. With a clang, a golden chain stretched out from Naraku's back, and then the chain spun rapidly in front of him. Clang, clang, clang. The constantly rotating chain was like a golden shield, blocking all Kimimaro's finger bone attacks. Call out. The next moment, the golden chain suddenly stretched forward, like a spear, and stabbed straight towards Kimimaro. Clang. A figure flashed past at great speed, and flicked the chain away. It was Orochimaru holding the Kusanagi sword. After flicking off the chain, Orochimaru and Kimimaro jumped upwards. I don't want to damage the equipment here, Naraku murmured softly in his heart, and then raised his hand to stop Shisu, who wanted to intercept them. Just after Orochimaru and Kimimaro left here, dozens of cold breaths came over the next second. Naraku looked up and saw a scalp-numbing scene. They saw densely packed venomous snakes spitting out their venom and approaching them. After seeing this scene, Naraku didn't want to stay any longer and left here with Shisu at the same time. Above the base, Naraku and Orochimaru looked at each other from a distance. Perhaps because he was worried that Naraku would discover his secret, or because of something else. Orochimaru's face looked a little ugly at this time, with a cold look on his pale face. Haha, uncle, are you in a bad mood? Naraku chuckled lightly and said. Ignoring Naraku's teasing words, Orochimaru moved his eyes away from him and looked at the barb-like hair. Uchiha. Shisu. A trace of fear flashed in Orochimaru's eyes. This fear comes from his heart and is even stronger than when he faces Naraku. Obviously, seeing him like this, Naraku knew that he must already know the ability of Shizubutsu Tenjin at this time. Otherwise, with Orochimaru's incredible life-saving ability, he wouldn't be afraid even of Pain, who has the Rinnegan, let alone Shisu, who has barely reached the cage level. Sure enough, there is still a connection between you two, Naraku thought to himself. Call out, call out, call out. Then in an instant, 7 golden chains, 6 gold and 1 black, stretched out from his back. The 7 thick chains were like multiple pythons, rushing towards Orochimaru at high speed. Master Orochimaru, Kimimaro, on the side saw this, and was about to block Orochimaru in a flash, but he was blocked by a figure. That kind of battle is not something you can participate in, Shisu said solemnly, looking at Kimimaro in front of him. As members of the Kaguya clan, let me see the limits of your clan's blood inheritance. Zisu secretly thought in his heart, and then scarlet eyes appeared, with 3 black magatama slowly flowing. Before he and Naraku found Orochimaru, the other party had already told him part of the information about Orochimaru, including information about Kimimaro's identity and some of his abilities. Shisu was also very curious about the special ability to manipulate bones. Anger rose in the eyes of Kimimaro, who was stopped. He pulled out his spine from behind and used it as a bone knife to launch a fierce attack on Shisu. Perhaps it's because Orochimaru's recent treatment has taken effect. Now when Kimimaro uses the corpse vein, the pain he feels in his body is not as great as before, and the consumption seems to be a little less than before. Especially today, the moment he pulled out the spine from behind, he felt that his power was stronger than before. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.